All right, everyone. Hello. Good to see you all again. I still need to grab the tea from the cupboard, so just give me a second. I'm also gonna check out the comment section. Let's see, turn that down. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, Kenanaya. Hello, Gray Starline, and hello, Ken. All right, hold on. I need to go grab the tea. Okay, I'm back. I just stepped on something sharp and I have no idea what it was. Okay. So, some of you folks might be wondering why I'm doing this stream so much earlier than I normally do. And the reason why is because we're going through kind of a warm spell. I think a heat wave is on its way. But the last couple days have been about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which for us up here in the Pacific Northwest it is kind of a shocking temperature, just because, you know, again, we're used to a much cooler climate. So definitely, if I appear exhausted or anything, well, I am also tired. I didn't get very good sleep last night, but also it's because of the heat. It's already 85 degrees Fahrenheit in my apartment. I can only imagine what it's going to be like at the peak of the day, which is at 4 p.m. And it's probably going to be a lot hotter in here. So, yeah. I was going to do the live stream right now because I thought it was supposed to be about 75 degrees at this time of day, but it's already 85. So, the weather got hotter than I expected much quicker. So, yeah. So if that is, if I appear at all tired and exhausted, that is probably why, is because it's really hot in here. So, and then I don't have any sandwich or anything prepared. I was gonna make myself breakfast. I didn't have time, so I didn't prepare a sandwich because I thought I was going to make breakfast. So anyway, but what I do have is I have my milk chocolate digestives here, the McVitie's, and then I have the tea, which today, instead of a British tea, I'm going to go with a Darjeeling, which is very much a Indian tea, but it is one of the teas that the Queen drinks. So, and I actually do end up I do like Darjeeling tea. Unfortunately, I can't find it in the loose leaf kind, because I have these tea infusers for loose leaf tea, but I couldn't find Darjeeling in loose leaf from a good company. And I trust Twinings. I've liked their teas so far. Other companies, I can't say the same. Put that there. Okay. So I'm just going to have to stuff these two into the fuser. There we go. All right, let's see. Kenanaya asks, when is the next monthly update on the Queen Mary? I don't have a date in sight yet, because there is no major updates to give just yet on the Queen Marys. There's nothing major has happened that I can tell you. So, it'll have to wait a bit longer. Ken asks, have the Queen Mary's masts been inspected for structural integrity? Hopefully they aren't too rusted. As far as I'm aware, they've only been visually inspected, and the mast itself is fine from a visual inspection. It was inspected by what was his name? I don't remember the inspector's name, but he was the inspector for the Queen Mary for decades. And he was the last person to visually inspect the mast. And from what he has said, it's in very good shape. It's just that the crow's nest is not in good shape. And the reason why the crow's nest is in bad shape, but the rest of the mast is not in bad shape, is because the crow's nest is what catches the weather. It catches the water, the air, the salty air, all that. But the rest of the mast is vertical or close to vertical. So any water and stuff that would normally rot out steel has basically dripped off and allowed the mast to dry in between rain and stuff. So the rest of the mast is fine. It's just that the crow's nest is in really bad shape. So I don't think you can even step in the crow's nest. You might fall right through. RMS Lusitania, I have, but that has nothing to do with this live stream, so I'm not going to answer it out loud. Wyatt Horn says, my town is having a night swim tonight, so looking forward to cool down then. Oh, okay. 86 in Pittsburgh, wow. Oh, geez, Rayanne says the power went out a couple days ago. From 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It was 103 outside that day. Oh, man. Yeah, that sounds crazy. Yeah, I don't even have air conditioning. So it's certainly frustrating when it's really hot weather, because I can't seek any kind of I don't know the word, solace from the heat. I just have to deal with it, you know. Alrighty, let's see. Kevin says, where I'm from, Toronto, Canada, basically the same temperature. Yeah. Right to Yep says, do you have air conditioning? No, I don't. It wasn't until the summer of, was it 2021? I think it was 2021. It wasn't until the summer of 2021 that most people in the Pacific Northwest actually got air conditioning, because we don't generally need it. The climate up here is usually very cold, so all of our exterior walls, I know for this apartment complex I live in, our exterior walls are a foot thick. That's, well, it's actually a foot's more like that. But, you know, compare that to Southern California, which always has warm weather. The walls are about 6 inches thick. But here they're extra thick to retain the heat for winter. So the apartment certainly gets really hot. I mean, I don't usually like to leave my sliding glass door open at night, because I'm always, like, paranoid about people, you know, climbing in the night and then trying to rob me or something. But last night it was just so hot. I had to sleep with the window open. It was just, I hate sleeping in heat. It's just so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. Wyatt says, have they ever let people climb the crow's nest? In the past they have, but it wasn't like a daily thing. It was like if you were a special guest or something, or you knew somebody who was in the Queen Mary that was like, hey, let me take you to the crow's nest. And so it was like things like that, but it was never like part of a tour. And the reason why is because there's only one way to get there. Well, technically there's a second way. You could climb the rigging, but that is just out of the question. But basically the only way to get up there, like, safely, is to climb the ladder that's inside the mast. And that ladder, I think somebody said it was like 120 rungs because that's, you know, you're climbing several stories, you know, because the the entrance into the mast is on B deck. Yeah, it's on B deck. You have to climb through A, main deck, promenade, sun deck, you know, sports deck, past the bridge, and then 2 more decks above that, which there aren't any. So it's but it's the height of 2 decks above that. So you're climbing several stories to get up there, and it's just not safe, you know. Just from a exhaustion perspective, you know, people can get really exhausted and fall. So, hello, Mike. Pinball says it's currently 106 here in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, I believe it, but you know, most people in Phoenix have air conditioning. You know, you have air conditioning in all your buildings, all your houses, all your malls, all your cars. Up here, you know, like, your houses don't generally have air conditioning because through the rest of the year we really don't need it. So, you know, like I said, it wasn't until last year when we had that really bad heat wave where it was 115 just outside Portland, and that was when a lot of people died from the heat. And so ever since then, people like bought up air conditioners, and so now a lot more people I should say, have air conditioners. In fact, I look around the different buildings of this apartment complex, and there's certainly a lot more air conditioners hanging out the windows than there was last year or the year before. But nevertheless, still not very many people have air conditioning, because it's just a nuisance, because, you know, you don't really need it the rest of the year. So let's see. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Deanne says, "Hi Alex, I like your videos about the Queen Mary and all your content. Amazing job." Thank you so much. Alright, let me just... Oh. Oops. It's time to... Unbelievable. It's almost, you know, it's like 86, 87 in my apartment right now, and I'm about to have hot tea with it. This is gonna be this is gonna be one heck of a day. Let's see. Okay, water's done. Alright, so now I have to let the water cool down a few degrees, because the Darjeeling tea is a delicate tea. Does not like the boiling temperature of water. Just likes it just under boiling. Let's see here. Chicken Sandwich says it's raining in SoCal, but it's still 80 degrees. Oh gosh, I do not miss that weather. That weather is so terrible. Even, like, you know, and it's because the weird thing too is that whenever it does rain in SoCal, it's becoming more tropical feeling. You know, like when I was a kid and it rained, it was either a cold rainy day or it was a, you know, or a sunny day of some kind. But I've noticed in the last couple of years, if it rained, it was like hot, humid, and muggy. You know, like it was very tropical. It reminded me of Florida whenever it rained, and I was just like, I don't like that weather. Now, granted, when I did visit Florida, I've been to Florida twice. The afternoon rains were pleasant because, you know, as you know, it's hot and humid all day long, and the sun doesn't make things any better. But at least during the afternoon rains, things kind of cool down a little bit, and you know, and so it was kind of nice. I remember walking through Disney World. That was the first time I've been to Florida. It was so hot But I looked forward every day to the afternoon rain because we just walk around in the rain, you know. Um, it you know, I know that's like weird. Most people, you know, put up umbrellas or whatever, but it was so hot. The rain was just nice, you know. So, Tyler, that's all right, Tyler. Kevin says, I heard that most of the UK is under a heat warning and most people there don't have AC. Yep, that is true. Lusitania says, why didn't Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary have a clipper stern? The reason why is because as ocean liners were developed over the years, they were trying to make them more hydrodynamic. They were trying to make them more efficient in those ways. And so what they realized was that a cruiser stern was just overall better. I'm not going to say, I don't want to be too specific because I will have like 10 million people coming after me and be like, that's not this, that's not that. But what I will say is that a cruiser stern was better fitted for ships like Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. They were just better at making the ship more efficient through water, also more efficient at holding more space, you know? So that is why they went with a cruiser stern, and I prefer the cruiser stern. I never really liked the way clipper sterns look. They always remind me of, like, if you look at it from the side, it looks like a toilet. I just, you know, so I never really liked clipper sterns. All right, so 3 minutes on that, so we'll say 12:21. Wyatt says, it's precisely 100 degrees in Missouri. Yikes. Liners of Our Time says, does any other company besides Bachmann make ON30 trains? Haven't been able to find any others. There is one company, but I never ever see their products around. So that's why I don't even remember the name of the company. But there was one other company that did it. And I haven't seen any of their products at all. But yeah, there is supposedly another company. I just don't remember it. But yeah, Bachmann is pretty much the main producer of ON30, and even then, Bachmann, they don't produce ON30 as much anymore. In fact, I'm not even sure they're still making new stuff from in ON30 scale. So, Evan Scott. Hello, Evan. Chilling says, good afternoon, Alex. In view of the heat, have you considered enjoying iced tea or iced Thai coffee? I don't drink tea, but an iced coffee, yeah, I've considered it. You know, yesterday, or not yesterday, but the other day, I went to Starbucks and got an iced coffee. I don't normally make that stuff at home because I don't have the supplies for it. You know, like, I have to be really careful what I buy from the grocery store because since I live by myself, everything goes bad very quickly. So I have to, like, whatever I buy from the store, I have to consume within a few days or else it just goes bad. So that's why I don't usually keep milk. You know, I have oat milk, but that lasts forever. But I don't usually keep milk and stuff like that, and coffee, I don't keep that. Mostly only because I don't drink coffee that much anymore. Part of the reason why I switched to tea is because as I'm getting older, coffee just doesn't... I don't feel good on coffee anymore. When I drink coffee, it makes my heart beat. I sweat. I just don't... It doesn't feel good. I feel like I get hypertension now when I drink coffee. So I don't drink it as much anymore, and I most certainly will not drink iced tea. So I don't drink anything like that, really. I have cold water. That's what I do. I drink cold water, but Oh, it's already time. Wow. Jeez. I looked back at the clock and it's already time for the tea. This tea doesn't require a long brewing time because it's I don't know much about it. All I can tell you is it doesn't require a long brewing time. It's a very, very light tea. Okay, I think that's properly mixed. You know, I can bring the teapot back here a little bit. Should make it easier for you guys to see the teapot. Okay, let me cover this so it doesn't get too cold too quickly. Alrighty. Ow. Ooh, that's really hot. Okay. Oh. Alright. So, just a little bit of sugar. Just 1.5 demi-tasse spoons. And then you stir with a back and forth motion, not in circles. Oh, Ken, thank you so much. Here's some cash to grab another cold beverage. Stay cool. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I might end up going to get Gatorade at 7-Eleven or something. Because I drink lots of water, but on hot days you lose a lot of salt in your sweat and other nutrients as well. So sometimes on the hottest days I get Gatorade, which is kind of a treat actually, because I don't drink anything but water most of the time unless I'm having tea. But usually it's just either tea or water. So on hot days when I get to go get like a Gatorade, that's always fun. I say fun like I'm like having the time of my life or something. Let's see. Alfie's model says, "Hi, I love the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth and the videos you made on them." Oh, thank you so much. Lusitania asks, why and how do ships vibrate? So the vibration can be caused by two different things. One is the engines themselves. So sometimes, depending on how well or how poorly built the engines are for an ocean liner, I'm not going to speak about cruise ships because cruise ships aren't my thing. I don't really know that much about them. But for ocean liners, the engines can make the ship vibrate. But the other thing too is the propellers. Now I'll get back to the propellers in a second. But the engines themselves, especially when it came to the old reciprocating engines that were on ships, the sheer like pounding motion they made, you know, as the cylinders went up and down, it could cause vibration. And then later on, when the first turbine engines were installed on ocean liners, you know, especially with like, you know, Lusitania and Mauretania, the turbines were built the best they could for the time. They were the first time major turbines were put on a massive superliner, basically. And so those engines, they did cause vibration. They did try to fix that vibration. I think they were able to fix it just a little bit by strengthening the stern of the ship. And I'll talk about that in a second too. But then now on to the propellers. So the propellers themselves can be the source of the vibration or contribute to the vibration. And that's because depending on how fast the propeller is spinning, it could cause what's called cavitations. So cavitations... Oh, let me silence my phone. Text messages are... So cavitations are where a propeller is spinning so fast that it creates a vacuum along the edges of the propeller blade. because it's spinning so fast the water can't move to replace it. So it creates these vacuum bubbles, and the vacuum bubbles collapse. And when they collapse, it does what's called water hammering. So if you've ever had like an old house or an old apartment and the plumbing clanged in the walls, you know, clang, 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 clang on the walls, that's from water hammering. So that's because the water moves through the pipes. Someone opens a faucet, water runs through it, the pipe moves, then they shut the faucet, the water all just stops, because it's a lot of mass moving through the pipes. It's like a train, and it just stops like that, and that can cause the pipe to shake and clang. Well, it's the same thing, water hammering in the ocean against the propeller. When the water goes and hits the propeller, a lot of mass goes and slams against the metal, and that can cause pitting in the propeller, creates pits and ruts inside the propeller, and that can lead to even more cavitation. So it's like it's a cycle that just makes itself worse and worse as time goes on. So the cavitations can cause the vibrations, and the vibrations themselves can be really bad. But the other way that propellers can also be the cause of vibrations is if they're not correctly balanced. So a propeller must be perfectly balanced. If it's not, and it wobbles, and the propeller is spinning, you know, Queen Mary's propellers, they spun 3 times a second, 3 revolutions per second. So you can imagine at that speed, with a lopsided propeller, it would cause the whole ship to just, you know, and it would vibrate real fast. So those are the causes for vibration, and one of the ways that they fix them is either they adjusted the engines in some way, they made adjustments to it, or they changed out the propellers with better propellers, like they had to do with Queen Mary. And then another way that they help vibration is they strengthen the stern of the ship. They add extra pillars, extra supports, and to all the decks. And what that does is it makes it more rigid and less prone to rattling and shaking about. So that is why ocean liners had that's why ocean liners had vibrations, and that is what caused vibrations. Deanne says, about the sterns, the SS Rex had clipper stern, and she was faster than her sister, Conte de Savoia, which had a cruiser stern. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into a faster ship. Just because you have a cruiser stern doesn't necessarily mean the ship is going to be faster. Because what if you have more powerful engines on the other ship? Or what if the other ship is just lighter weight? Or maybe the other ship has a much better designed hull besides the stern, you know? So there's a lot of factors that go into the speed of an ocean liner. I mean, you know, the Queen Elizabeth was far more fuel efficient than Queen Mary, but Queen Elizabeth was not faster than Queen Mary. She couldn't be. You know, Queen Mary was, you know, more expensive to run, but that's because all her machinery, all her equipment is what made her so fast. So just because something is more efficient doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be faster. And one of the ways we know that is if you know, compare, you know, a Lamborghini to a Toyota Prius. You know, a Lamborghini is going to go real fast, and it'll get up to that speed very quickly. But a Toyota Prius won't. So just because the Prius is more efficient doesn't mean it's going to be faster than the Lamborghini. Of course, I know nothing about cars, so if there is like a major mistake and I was completely wrong about that, then I wouldn't be surprised. But Alfie says, have you heard that the horns on QE2 are out of tune? I haven't heard of that, but at the same time, I don't recall ever hearing QE2's horns myself, so I'm not actually sure. Bartupiep says, were swimming pools on liners salt or fresh water? Generally speaking, they were salt water. I can't guarantee that every liner had saltwater pools, but I can tell you most of them did. And the reason why is because saltwater was far easier to fill a pool with on an ocean liner than anything else. Because if you think about it, where does that water come from? They have to pull it from the ocean. They can't just always carry it around with them. Sometimes it would actually be not good for them to carry all that water around with them. But they pulled the water from the ocean, and they could run it through a filtration system to kind of clean it out a little bit, and then voila, you have a saltwater pool. But if they tried to make a freshwater pool with, let's say, chlorine, for instance, they'd have to run the water through the desalinization plant. Now, a lot of ocean liners had desalinization plants, which made it possible for them to, to make fresh water at sea, which is all fine and dandy. But, the less effort you have to put into pool water, the better, because that could be desalinization water that could go to the passengers. But if you're always trying to desalinate the water to make fresh water for a chlorine swimming pool, it's just not efficient. So a lot of pools back then had salt water. I wouldn't be too surprised if even modern cruise ships still had saltwater pools, especially the therapeutic pools. Chilling says, trivia question, Alex. What, because of the Queen Mary's high-frequency shortwave receivers and transmitters after she arrived in Long Beach? Huh? Are you asking what happened to the Queen Mary's high-frequency receivers and transmitters? Well, I don't know for certain, but what I do know is that the radio rooms and stuff for the Queen Mary, the transmission rooms, all that were gutted and in some cases removed, because there was more than one. There was a radio room, and then somewhere else on the ship was some kind of transmission room. My friend Steve would know more about that, but they did end up gutting both those rooms, and then the radio room itself was actually moved to a different location. Where it sits today is not the original location. So I know stuff like that was removed, and the reason why is because it just wasn't necessary. That's just one more thing you have to maintain and keep up that isn't in use. So let's see. You're welcome, Alfie. Ken says Gatorade is a lifesaver in the heat. Oh yeah, it definitely is. Swag says, what would you do if there's a knife stuck in your hand? I would immediately call an ambulance because that could be really dangerous. You could bleed out, or you could, paralyze your hand if you try to do stuff yourself. So call an ambulance. Yeah. Little Gamer says, what if Boiler 5 wasn't damaged? Would Titanic have less than 1,000 deaths? I would prefer not to speak about Titanic. I mean, I want to answer that question, but, even to this day, I receive so many angry comments from people about Titanic. They do not like when I talk about Titanic. So I have just decided not to. So Victoria says, did the SS United States have vibration during her service? To my understanding, when she went full speed, yes, she vibrated. It was noticeable. I don't know that it was so bad that people were upset about it, but I do know that it was noticeable in high speed. But the funny thing is that the SS United States, she didn't always travel full speed. Her service speed was 29 knots. So, or at least close to it. I think it was maybe closer to 30. But the reason why is because after you surpass 30 knots in speed, it becomes kind of unnecessary for a ship to be that fast. And that's kind of the funny, ironic thing about ocean liners is, you know, for years they were building them to be faster and faster and faster, to be the fastest ocean liners in the world. And, you know, by the time SS United States came around, they realized it's cool to have the blue ribbon, but the thing is that at speeds like that, it becomes too expensive to run the liner. It becomes too just overall unnecessary. I mean, I'm just going to summarize by saying unnecessary, because in the end, the passengers didn't really care if the ship arrived 5 or 8 hours early. So, you know, if it was a difference of 5 or 8 hours, it didn't matter to them. So by then, the transatlantic crossing time was closer to the same for all ships, because they all generally traveled around 29, 30 knots, generally speaking. So unless there was like a need to go faster if there was a storm or something, but otherwise all of them pretty much ran around 30 knots, and even the Queen Mary could keep up with that speed. So, you know, there was a quote from an old newsreel. It was showing the Queen Mary in the 1960s, and the reporter on the newsreel, or the journalist, or whoever it is, the narrator, said, here's the old Queen Mary. She may not be the fastest in the world anymore, but she can still pick up her skirts and run with the rest of them. And so I thought that was a pretty cool quote. Tyler, yeah, I do think that is pretty remarkable that Andrea Doria stayed afloat that long. Stephen Hemingway. Awesome to watch this in the daytime. Yeah, just trying to avoid the heat. It's already hot, though. That's the thing. It's already hot in here, and I'm drinking this hot tea. Mark Raymond says, ships had desalinization plants because you don't put salt water in the boiler. Yes, I know that. I was just saying that the reason why the saltwater pools were saltwater was because the desalinization plants, if they're processing water and desalinating it for a swimming pool, that's a waste of time. They could be better using that time to desalinate stuff for other processes. So that's what I meant, it was about the pool, not about the boilers and stuff. I was just trying to say that the desalinization plants, they had a lot of work to do, and so trying to desalinate water for pools was a waste of time compared to the more important things they had to do. Little Gamer says, Titanic stands be mad. You know, I love Titanic, but what I have noticed about the Titanic fans, because they are a very different breed of ocean liner fans. And every single one of them, they have their own understanding of Titanic. And if anything you say does not meet that understanding, even if it meets someone else's understanding, if it doesn't meet their understanding, they do not like that. And so even to this day, like, I mean, I woke up this morning to like 10 different comments on my various other videos that featured Titanic, and people were trying to correct me with, and it's all conflicting information too. That's the funny thing, is I don't think the people who comment to correct me on Titanic even read other people's comments, because the comments, like, the one person will be like, oh, this happened. And other people will be like, this happened. And they don't read each other's comments and see that there's conflicting information out there. And so they immediately blame me, and they're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, you know, do you blame me? Because look at all these people who think they know what happened, and each one of them has a different story. You know, so it's just like, I don't like to talk about Titanic for that reason. You know, people are, you know, they are very protective of their information and of Titanic. So I do not talk about it. Like, I have so much respect for people, you know, like Sam from Historic Travels, who goes out there every day and talks about Titanic, and I'm not even sure he gets any of the same flack that I get from the viewers. So, you know, kudos to him. You know, people love his channel. He does a great job, you know, and you know, so I try to focus on other ships, but most especially Queen Mary. So, because Queen Mary is the one I know more about than the rest of them. Granny Gaming says, how many watertight compartments were flooded when Lusitania got hit? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Good evening, Ivan. Mo says, hi, Alex. If you could travel on Lusitania or Aquitania, which one would you choose? I'd rather travel on Aquitania. Now, the funny thing is I think Lusitania is more beautiful. But I would not want to tempt fate by traveling on a ship that famously sank. You know, so I'm very superstitious in that way. So even if someone said, oh, well, but let's just say this is a world where Lusitania didn't sink, or let's just say this is a voyage before Lusitania sank, I don't know. I feel like I'd just be tempting fate by saying Lusitania. But hypothetically speaking, if we were talking about which ship I prefer more, I would say Lusitania. I prefer Lusitania over Aquitania. But if I had to choose to go on a voyage, knowing what I know now, I would choose Aquitania. Conrad says, it must be a hot day again. It is, yeah, it's... I started the live stream at noon because it was supposed to be 75 degrees. But, great, now my phone won't tell me the temperature. Oh, yeah. It's like, it's a little over 85 degrees. My computer says 81, but it feels much hotter than that outside. But yeah, it was already like 85 degrees when I started this thing. Well, it was certainly 85 in my apartment, I'll put it that way. So I am just melting right now. Granny Gaming says, is there any ship that still goes 30 knots? Technically, yes. Queen Mary 2 has the capability of traveling 30 knots. However, Cunard has slowed down Queen Mary's service because, as it turned out, the passengers preferred to have a longer voyage because they felt like they were getting more for their money. So they've slowed down in recent years, but the ship is capable of going 30 knots. And the ship still does go 30 knots, especially when it needs to get past rough weather. So... Mike says, love your channel, keep doing your thing. Thank you so much. Nigel Robinson says, how is the work progressing on Queen Mary doing? I assume it's going well. We haven't heard any new information, so that's why I haven't created any updates on Queen Mary, because there's just nothing new to tell you guys. There's some contracts have been signed, you know, with the hospitality group and stuff, but there's nothing that stands out that I could make an update on that would be interesting. And plus, I was hoping to get, like, again, this will be another update where I don't have any new photographs for you guys, no new images, because everything that's happening is happening inside the ship. So there's really nothing to show you guys. That's unfortunate, you know. So, Granny Gaming says, if Titanic didn't sink, would White Star Line have the same amount of ships as Cunard? No. No, because they got rid of a lot of other ships. It wasn't just Titanic. They got rid of a lot of other ships. And that was by the 1930s. That was 20 years later. Granny Gaming says, is Queen Mary bigger than Titanic? Most certainly. Yeah, Queen Mary is 137 feet longer than Titanic. She's, 27 feet wider? I can't remember the number. I'm not going to do the math in my head. It's too hot for that. My brain is burning. But I will say Titanic was 92 feet wide. Queen Mary was 118 feet wide, or is 118 feet wide. Queen Mary is also Queen Mary is also 12 decks. See, the heat's already getting to me. Queen Mary is 12 decks. Titanic was 9 decks. So Queen Mary is significantly larger than Titanic was. Significantly. So, quite big. Ice Wallows says, hello Alex, I take it that Queen Mary is your favorite ocean liner. What is your favorite room in the Queen Mary? Yes, Queen Mary is my favorite ocean liner. I would say my favorite room in the Queen Mary is one that no longer exists. It was the second class overflow lounge, and it was a lounge underneath what is today the Britannia Salon, so it was underneath that, and it was a beautiful room. It was eventually, after the war, converted into what's called the Beachcombers Lounge, which was a lounge for teenagers, but before that, it was a beautiful overflow lounge. But if I had to choose a room that still exists, I would choose the first class main lounge. Swag, yes, go to the hospital. My goodness, if you don't treat that, you can become paralyzed. Yeah, go to the hospital, for heaven's sake. Scatino says he does not. I can confirm. I think you're referring to Sam not having the same kind of comments that I get. I think that's what you're referring to. Granny Gaming says, are these the same cookies as last time? Yes, indeed, they are. Ivan says, sheesh, Alex. The main man is on 28.7K. When I discovered you, you were 23K. Yeah, 28.7K. It's certainly going faster now, but, I mean, if you think about it, like, I've known YouTubers who've been on YouTube for 1 year, and they've already surpassed 100,000 subscribers. I know because I'm subscribed to them. And they've surpassed 100,000 subscribers. I've been on here for 6 years, and I haven't even reached 30K yet. But that's okay. I think what I have here is I have a group of people that really have a passion for something. I think sometimes there are certain YouTubers, the reason why they've only been around for a few months and then they surpass this huge milestone is because they have a lot of viewers who are just there for, like, casual entertainment. You know, they just go there and they just, like, I hope that wasn't a weird term that I just used. They're there to see, like, a quick fun video and then they're gone. But I think what I have here is, I think all my subscribers are people who have a real passion for these subjects and they stick around to learn more. And so that is it. So if that's the reason why my channel's grown so slowly compared to others, then I'm fine with that, because I like surrounding myself with people who like to learn. I like to learn. I never consider myself an expert on anything, except maybe Disneyland. But still, I never consider myself an expert on anything, and so it's always nice to surround myself with people who are, like-minded, who like to learn things, just like I do. So Let's see. Deanne says, by the way, Alex, what do you think about RMS Empress of Britain? I really like this ship, and she reminds me of Queen Mary. Yes, I do like Empress of Britain. I don't have much information. I personally don't know much information on Empress of Britain. Again, I'm still relatively new to the ocean liner community for those that are just tuning in or have just discovered my channel. So I'm still learning about ocean liners, you know, at the same rate as a lot of you are. So, but with every video I make, I learn a little bit more about ocean liners. So it is really fun to kind of discover this stuff for myself and then share it with you guys. And you guys can actually see you can, like, that's the cool part about my channel. You can see when I learned something. It's like, I didn't already know this. Like, when I did my Disneyland videos, that was easy. I already knew the information years ahead of time, and I just made videos based off the information I knew. But when I came into ocean liners, I didn't know anything. And with each video, I had to learn more and more and more. And so you guys actually get to see, almost in real time, my knowledge about ocean liners grow. You know, so that's kind of the cool part about it. Oh, boy. Granny Gaming says, this is off topic, but what phone is that? This is a Galaxy Note 10? I think it's a 10. Yeah, Galaxy Note 10. It's funny because the the nerd in me wants to upgrade, but the practical person in me is like, why? It does everything you need it to do. You don't need any new phone, and a new phone's only going to cost you a ton of money. So, you know, I have no practical reason to upgrade this phone at all. So I still have it, you know, and it's really not that old. Who is that? They're going away. All right. But yeah, so there's no practical reason for me to upgrade the phone. But the nerd in me is like, I want to upgrade. But Chilling says, I don't think many of us would object if you want to switch to a cooler beverage in this heat. I know, but I would then have to rename the live stream, which isn't a big deal. I could technically redo it. But the thing is like, I don't expect, you know, that's the thing. Like, I didn't expect it to be this hot when I started this stream. So it was very, like, you know, last minute, and I didn't have time to go to the store and get like a cold beverage or something. So I'm stuck with the hot tea. It's tasty though, and it's liquid, so, you know, it'll help replenish anything that I lose when I sweat. Granny Gaming says, why would a modern ship need to go fast for? Well, it depends on where the ship is going. But generally speaking, when it comes to, like, let's say the Queen Mary 2, for instance, one of the reasons why the Queen Mary 2 still has the capability of doing 30 knots, well, mostly it was because to keep up with an old schedule that Cunard was doing at the time, which they no longer do. They don't do that schedule the same way. But it was to keep up with that schedule. But the other reason why is because, generally speaking, sometimes in a storm, you would actually might want your ocean liner to travel at full speed, especially if the storm is pushing the ship from the front. So if you're getting like a headwind that's pushing the ocean liner back, you might want to go full speed just to actually make some progress. And because it's no good to be stuck in the middle of a storm, you have to ride through it. So that's one of the benefits of having a ship that goes really fast, is if you get caught in a storm, you have a better chance of getting out of it faster. So, yeah. But generally speaking, cruise ships, most of them do perfectly fine without having a fast speed. And that's because they serve a different purpose. A totally different purpose. So, Steven says, how successful was the air conditioning on Queen Mary? Well, considering that she was mostly traveling in the North Atlantic, very successful, because the air conditioning didn't have to work too hard. It was already mostly cold outside. I mean, even at its hottest, the North Atlantic really has mild weather. So so the air conditioning on the ship really didn't have to work too hard, so it was very effective. The problem came when the Queen Mary was traveling away from the North Atlantic, such as when she was, in the middle of World War II, she would transport people through the tropics, or even on her last great cruise. It was called the Last Great Cruise, so nobody get angry at me for that. It was called the Last Great Cruise. When she sailed from Southampton to Long Beach, she had to pass through the equator twice, once to go down, then back up again. And when she did that, she was really subjected to the heat of the equatorial region. And so it was in those times when she was going through areas that she was not designed originally to go through, the air conditioning couldn't keep up. And according to, my colleague Steve, he says that there were 3 different types of air conditioning systems on Queen Mary. Now, let me see if I remember what he said. So there was a water cooling type. Yeah, there was a water cooling type of air conditioner. There was a vacuum. Really? We're not even supposed to have gardeners till Friday. Okay, so there was a water cooling type. There was a vacuum type. Don't ask me how that works, but it was a vacuum type air conditioner. And then there was a coolant liquid air conditioner. I don't remember the name or the type of the coolant that it was, but it was an early type of coolant that was extremely dangerous to be exposed to, way more than just the stuff we had in the 1990s. It was real dangerous. It was known to spontaneously explode, I heard. So, there were 3 different types of air conditioning on Queen Mary, and some of it was added through the years. So the ship might have started off with a vacuum type, then it might have added the water cooling type, and then later the liquid coolant type. So I don't remember the order. He did tell me all this a long time ago. I didn't write it down because I figured if I ever needed to talk about it, I would just ask him. But yes, so there were 3 different types of air conditioning on Queen Mary. And they added air conditioning to the Queen Mary over the years. So that's why I say it might have changed a little bit, is because certain rooms, they later added air conditioning in, just to kind of spread it around a bit more, TT says, kind of off topic, but how was the time that you were in high school like? Had always good grades, and what was your favorite school subject? Like your content, keep doing your thing. High school for me was a really weird time. So I went to a high school, and I can't be too specific because I don't want people like researching me, but I went to a high school. I loved learning. It was funny because, I'd go to classes and there would be certain subjects in each class that suddenly, interested me, I generally did not like world history. I generally did not like U.S. history either. It just didn't interest me. But there were certain stories that caught my interest, and I became obsessed with it, and when I had science and biology classes, I had certain interests in it, but I never fully was interested in each subject. And in fact, it bored the heck out of me. And all I remember thinking in high school was, there must be a better way to teach people like me who get so bored learning all this stuff. I thought if there was just a little bit of showmanship introduced, this is how my brain works. I thought if there was just a little bit of showmanship introduced in the way that we teach people, they might be more interested in learning about this boring stuff. Because I understood that the things in school I was being taught were important. But because I had so little interest in it, I couldn't pay attention. I couldn't, I couldn't get good grades. I had very bad grades in school. And it got worse as I got older and older. The grades got worse. I loved learning new things. I was, at that time, internet was still like kind of like the new thing everybody had. I mean, internet was new since the 1990s, but, like I knew people who didn't have internet, but nevertheless, I would always be learning new stuff on the internet, and that's where I did most of my education. But I knew that I wanted to graduate high school. I did not want to like leave high school and not have a diploma. So what I did was I signed myself up for a special, what do you call it? A special program. And the program was originally designed for misbehaved students or students of concern. I'm not really sure how to word it. But basically, if you were a bad kid and let's say you set fire to a building or something, and well, that might be too extreme. That might be really extreme for that place. But if you were a bad kid and you couldn't be trusted to go to school, then this was the kind of program you'd be put in. And the funny thing was, I was learning about this program during my sophomore year. Was it sophomore? I don't remember. It was the year after freshman. I was learning about this program, and I learned what they did. They put you one-on-one with a teacher, and the teacher would, give you the lessons and help you work through it. And I thought, that's what I need. I need someone who's invested in me. Because when you're in this big class, you got like 60 other students. And yes, some of my classes did have 60 students. And the teacher has no time to focus on you. So whenever there was something I didn't understand, the teacher was just like, oh, well, too bad. You're just going to have to reread and reread and reread until you understand it. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? So I enrolled myself in this program. I met a really wonderful woman. She was my high school teacher for the next 2 years. Because I didn't finish sophomore year in high school. I went right into this program. And so I remember the first day I met her, she said, so, tell me what's going on, what's wrong with, your learning, whatever. I just said, look, I'm a really bad student. I said, I don't understand anything, and so I don't even really try that hard anymore. And she told me, she goes, I don't think that you have an incapability to understand things. She says, I think that you just need someone who will be there to help you learn something and to teach it to you in a way that you understand. And I was like, okay, but I'm just letting you know, if I get bad grades, it's nothing on you. I said, I'm just, she goes, no. She goes, it is on me. She goes, if you get bad grades, it will be on me. And from that point on, I had so much respect for her. And so, like I said, I was in that program for 2 years. I graduated high school a year early because I accelerated through that program so fast. I was learning things like crazy. I was taking on extra classes, and, and it was funny because I was so bad at math. But this woman, this lovely woman, she put herself through night classes at a college to learn how to teach me things like Algebra 2. Because none of her students, again, most of her students were students who did not behave correctly. They usually did not even finish the program. They would drop out of high school early. So she never needed to teach kids Algebra 2 and stuff like that, or trigonometry. Oh my goodness. This woman put herself through school to teach me Algebra 2 and a little bit of trigonometry. So much respect for that lady. I still talk to her to this day. She's retired now, and she lives with her husband out in the desert. But wonderful woman. I owe my life to her. I really do, because she got me through high school not only with a diploma but a year early, and that was fantastic. I was able to devote my time to going to work. Because, you know, when you're someone as poor as me, you have to go right into work. You have to get a job and you have to start working. And that's what I needed to do, and I was able to do that because I was able to finish high school early. So that was really cool. So, yeah. Granny Gaming says, what is an overflow lounge? An overflow lounge, sorry, just checking to see what time it is. An overflow lounge is basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's an extra room to go when the other lounges are full. So on main deck was the second class main lounge, very massive room, but even that would become overcrowded. And if you wanted to go somewhere that was quieter, because they might have like band music playing up there, if you wanted to go somewhere quieter, you could go to the deck below, which is A deck, and that was where the overflow lounge was, and it was a quiet little space, a little nook in the ship, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful little space. So, Ken says, been nerding out on trains a lot this week. Have you seen the Shea locomotives? Those were an interesting design. I have seen the Shea locomotives. I'm not much into logging locomotives, but yeah, I have seen them. And there's one Shea locomotive that is located just outside the Portland Zoo. And it's an authentic one. It just sits there. I think a caboose is attached. I think, if I remember correctly. I took a picture of it so long ago when I first moved here. Chronic Maths said, I can't say your full name. I just realized. Oh my god. I'll just call you Chronic. Alex, you should visit the Spruce Goose and vlog your experience for us. I have visited the Spruce Goose. I considered doing a vlog, but the vlogs are really, really cringy, so I don't do vlogs anymore. But I did film it, and I am going to make a history video about the Spruce Goose. Don't ask me when. I've been saying for months I'm going to do it, but I've had so many things line up before that. Even now, I still have an oceanic video to complete before I do a Spruce Goose video. So, but I did film it, and I did a live stream. Actually, you can go, Chronic, you can go on my channel to my playlist called Live Streams. I think it's just called Live Streams. And I did a live stream at that museum. I was outside because the museum had just closed, but I talked about it. I walked up to the window to look inside and show the camera, you know, the view of the Spruce Goose. So in a way, that was a vlog. So I live streamed it. Nigel says, Alex, Queen Elizabeth may have been faster than Queen Mary. Cunard said they did not want to push her as they did not want another record holder. Well, actually, I have a video about that, Nigel, and I do suggest you watch it because the video is called, Was Queen Elizabeth Really Faster? Or Was Queen Elizabeth Secretly Faster? It's one of those two. It's on my Everything About Anything playlist. And I actually did speak to historian Bill Sauter. Now, Bill Sauter, he spoke to two of the Queen Elizabeth's captains. He spoke to Captain John Treasure Jones, who was at one point captain of Queen Elizabeth, and he spoke to, I forget the other captain's name. Starts with an H. But he spoke to the other captain as well. They were both captains at one point of the Queen Elizabeth. He asked them, he said, is it true that Cunard did not want Queen Elizabeth to run full out so that way it didn't surpass the speed of Queen Mary? They both told him, no, that's not true. When we ran full speed, it was full speed. It was the fastest that Queen Elizabeth could muster. And she could not surpass the speed of Queen Mary. And so Bill Sauter told me that. I trust Bill Sauter. You know, and so because I asked him. I went on Facebook. I'm like, I need to know. Yeah, so, and I have that on video. I even showed the, because he sent it to me in a message, so I showed the text of his message on my video. But the reason why Queen Elizabeth was not capable of going faster than Queen Mary was, first of all, because she wasn't built to. That she was not meant to be a racehorse. Queen Mary was the racehorse. But they wanted a ship that was cheaper to operate, a ship that didn't guzzle so much fuel, a ship that didn't cost so much, you know. And so Queen Elizabeth was that solution. It offered, you know, Queen Elizabeth offered all the same luxury and amenities that Queen Mary had, but just in a cheaper box. And so that's what Queen Elizabeth was. She had less boilers than Queen Mary. Her boilers were larger, but still less volume of steam could be produced for that high speed. And Queen Elizabeth's only requirement was that she be able to do 28 knots of cruising speed to keep up with Queen Mary. And she did, because Queen Elizabeth's maximum speed was, I think, 31 knots, but her cruising speed was 28, sometimes 29. So, yeah, but yeah, interesting video. Granny Gaming says, do you play games? I'm going to say not really, because I'm not really a gamer. I don't really play games, but I have played some simulators, some World War II games. I'm not much of a World War II fan, so please don't suggest any, because I probably won't play it. But yeah, I'm not a gamer. I'm very much a book reader. Granny Gaming. Yeah, I don't drink iced tea. I don't like the way it tastes. Yeah, this Darjeeling tea is actually really nice. Got kind of an amber color to it. Let's see. Conrad says ammonia. I think Conrad is talking about the air conditioning system. I don't think it's ammonia. No. It's a different type of liquid. It's one that I don't think I've heard before. When he told me what coolant liquid was in the Queen Mary's air conditioning system, I was like, I've never heard of that before. It was a complex word. It was like 5 words in one. Let's see. Alfie says, also, believe it or not, not all British people like tea. Yeah, I understand that. In fact, a funny story about me, I was never a tea drinker at all. Through my whole life, I was a coffee drinker. I always had coffee. I did not even like tea. I did not step anywhere near a cup of tea. But it was the last couple years, I've just realized that when I drink coffee, I feel like I don't feel good. You know, like I get heart palpitations. I feel like a train wreck. I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't make me feel good. And so I thought, I gotta switch to something else. I need something else that'll pick me up. And everyone was like, oh, tea. And I'm like, I hate tea. And everyone's like, oh, but you'll love Earl Grey. And I said, no, I've had Earl Grey. I had Lipton's Earl Grey. Worst mistake in my life. Tasted terrible. It tasted like dishwater. And I thought, no, I've had Earl Grey. I'm not going to have it ever again. And then, you know, finally, I was like, something's got to give. Get off my... It's an ant, sorry. I get these little scout ants everywhere. They're always looking for something. And, you know... And I even, like, wiped off this whole countertop before I started the tea time, so I thought that might deter them from wanting to step on it, because it smells like chemicals, but I guess not. What was I answering? Oh, yeah, so tea. So, finally, like, after, like, the millionth suggestion for someone, like, everyone's like, try Twinings tea. I thought, okay, I've never had Twinings before, I'll try it. So, I had it. I had the English breakfast tea, and then I had Earl Grey from Twinings, and I was blown away. I was just like, I've never had tea like this before in my life. It was so good. And so I thought I could see myself becoming a tea drinker. And in fact, now that I drink tea, you know, I don't feel like terrible like I used to after coffee. And it still has enough caffeine that it kind of wakes me up a little bit. So I am now a tea drinker. I even invested in a Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, Cunard tea service. All this stuff took a while to collect, and it costed a lot of money, but I think it was worth it. So now I can pretend like I'm on a Cunard ship having tea. Jeez, now there's like a few ant scouts all over the counter. Can't go anywhere with all these ants. Oh my gosh. What is with people and all these creepy names? How many watertight compartments did Queen Mary have? So Queen Mary, if you're talking about the big rooms, then in terms of watertight compartments, Queen Mary had 18. If you're talking about various other compartments, like tanks and such, because the Queen Mary had a double hull all the way around, so she was actually watertight. The double hull was divided up. Let's say there were 66 compartments below or close to it. And then along the sides of the hull was like another 30. And then you had the rooms themselves, which was 18. So that's 96. 114, I want to say 114 watertight compartments in total when you count the tanks as well. So that's my final answer, Regis. Granny Gaming says, is the Queen Mary connected to city power, or is it still generated by the engines? There are no more working engines or boilers or anything aboard the ship. The Queen Mary receives her power from city utilities, and the hot water and steam that is produced for the hotel and restaurants of the ship is produced from a modern boiler that sits on the pier that supplies the ship with that stuff. As you know, a hotel needs hot water, and restaurants need hot water as well, but they also need steam for various things. So the modern boiler that sits on the pier provides that. In fact, they're replacing the boiler because it no longer works. So they're going to be replacing that. But yeah, the ship no longer generates any of the functions that it needs anymore. So Brocky says, my first day of high school is next week on the 27th. Oh my gosh, well, good luck. Just, don't worry. The first week of high school is always awkward and weird. But then after the first week, things start to just kind of fall in line. So don't worry. Everybody is going to be just as nervous and awkward as you might be. Tyler Frederick says, somehow, Alex, I don't imagine you setting fire to a living room rug. Did I say I did? Yeah, I don't know. I think you're talking about when I went to that program. That was funny because my first day at that high school program, they have the principal of that program. I went to his office. He goes, all right, I want to talk to you. So I go to his office. And he goes, okay, you're new here. He's like, I'm going to tell you the rules, blah, blah, blah. And it was like going to prison. He was like, all right, here's what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Finally, he tells me everything, and I'm like, okay, and he goes, all right, so why are you in here? And I'm like, because I wanted to be. And he's like, no, seriously, why are you in here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, all my students, he says, are in here because they did something. And he goes, so what did you do? I said, no, really. I said, I wanted to be here because I wanted to pass, I wanted to get through high school with a diploma, and I said, and I said, I didn't see any other way of being successful at that unless I was able to have a teacher that could focus on me. And he was just like, so he's like, you weren't kicked out of school? I'm like, no. And he goes, and you're not misbehaved? I'm like, I don't think so. And he was like, that's never happened here before. So we had a good laugh about that afterwards. And I think I became one of the students that he really liked. I think for one thing, because he knew that every day I came in, I was not going to be a problem. Of course, he loved his students. That's not to say that he was expecting every one of them to misbehave. It's just that when you have a program like that with a bunch of misbehaved students, you're going to see some misbehavior. But he was a good man, a really good man, and he loved his students. So yeah, but he made every effort to understand his students. So that was one. I loved that program. All the teachers there were amazing. They were just these amazing people who really wanted to help kids. And it was really sad because a majority of the kids that went to that program never finished it. But the ones that did, they ended up living successful lives afterwards. They're maybe not CEOs of companies. I mean, some of them might be, but they had successful lives afterwards, TT says, what kind of books do you read? At this point in time, mostly ocean liner books. So whenever I do have time to read, I have to pick up a book about ocean liners or else I'll never get around to reading it. But I used to read all kinds of horror, fantasy, dark fantasy, what else? Science fiction. But then again, the science fiction ones I liked reading were also technically horror. I love horror books. I love being scared. I love reading a book and being like... I read a lot of Dean Koontz books. And then, let's see. Some of my favorite books I've ever read. Well, first and foremost, top of the list, my favorite book I've ever read was Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. I didn't like Lost World, so I'm not going to list that. But the original Jurassic Park was really good. And that's one that I ended up buying a first edition. I went and located a first edition. And I've read that book so many times. I think I've probably read that book 10 times in a row. And that was just when I bought the first edition. I had an edition before it that was just like a reprint. And I read that a few times. So I love Jurassic Park. But my favorite book series of them all was Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. So I loved those books. I've read every single one. And my father has the full collection. I read his books. But I do have the original first edition print of Interview with the Vampire, so I still have that. But love her books. I was so sad when I learned last year that she passed away. But amazing books. But nowadays, I don't have time to read fun books like that. I mostly read about ocean liners now to try to learn more. Sequad, I remember you told me, I think in the last live stream you told me. Granny Gaming, is there any ship that still has a smokestack? I mean, yeah, most cruise ships do. They exhaust the exhaust from the engines, the diesel engines. Granny Gaming, do ships still have a radio room? I think so, but I wouldn't really call it a radio room. Just more like a communications room. So it's a room that has the computers and things that run the various communication systems when it comes to stuff. I'm not that technical, so I couldn't tell you everything that they have, but you know, they have all kinds of communication systems, and so I'm sure there's a single room that helps run all that. Hello, Oliver. How's it going? Granny Gaming says, how did the captain know how fast the ship was going? So, the way that they know is they actually have several methods. For one thing, well, let's see. Do I actually know? Okay, if I remember correctly, one of the methods that they figured out how fast a ship was going was they had it was like a little propeller attached to a rod. They opened a hatch on the side of the ship, and they could like dunk it in the water, and then the propeller would spin according to how fast the ship was going through the water. That may not be a perfectly accurate way to measure, though, because if the water was also traveling in the opposite direction, if there was a current in the opposite direction, that might affect the speed of the propeller. You know, that's actually a really good question. Now that I think about it, I don't think I know how the captain knew how fast the ship was going. They could estimate it by, by knowing how fast the propeller was rotating, knowing, all kinds of things. But I personally do not know how they knew the actual speed of the ship. There's got to be a way to know, though. There's got to be a way. So, I just don't know it. So, actually, I just discovered that's something I don't know. Oh boy, everybody's arguing in the comment section. Look, I need everyone to know when to stop. I don't want to point fingers at people. I'm not even sure why History with Swag mentioned his injuries on a live stream. I have a feeling that it was a joke. Only because, if you have a knife stuck in your hand, I think anybody would just call 911. But yeah, yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll because I'm so behind on these comments. Fun edits. That's okay. Fun edits. I know that you've missed a few, but I don't hold it against anybody who doesn't come to the live streams. I mean, everybody has busy lives and stuff, so. Chilling says, for hot weather, have you considered lemonade? Absolutely, I have. It's just that I never constantly look at the weather, so I don't usually know when it's going to be a hot day. And so, like today, I realized only yesterday that today was going to be hot. something just told me, like, Alex, check the weather for tomorrow. And I did. And that's when I found out today was going to be hot. And I thought, okay, well, I didn't go to the store. I didn't buy anything for cool liquids. So I normally would. I would buy something cold, but I didn't plan ahead. I didn't plan that far ahead. So I realized, I'm like, okay, well, I can't do tea time at my normal time because it'll be way too hot. So I decided to do it early, and it's still really hot. Like, it's 10 degrees hotter now than I expected it to be for this time. But, you know. Rena says, besides On a Sea of Glass, what other books do you recommend? I haven't read very many, but one of them I like is The Only Way to Cross by John Maxstone Graham. I've read that. If you want to learn more about Queen Mary, I highly suggest the book Queen Mary, Queen of the Queens by William J. Duncan. I have a book on Oceanic. I'm currently reading through that book. I've actually already read it a few times. I just can't retain the memory of it, so I'm still reading it again. But it is called Oceanic. Let me go see it. Where is my book? Okay, well, I can't find the Oceanic book because it's not on my bookshelf because I was doing research with it, so it's somewhere. I just don't know where it is at the moment. But yes, I have a book on Oceanic. Another really good book about Queen Mary is called The Queen Mary Manual, and it's by Gary Chambers. That one's actually really, really cool because it's not just another history book. It's actually a book that showcases, like, the more statistics of the ship. So a lot of the statistics are on there. It's really interesting for that reason. Another interesting book is the Cunard White Star liner Queen Mary. And I haven't fully read through that book, but it's not a history book again. It is a book on technicalities. So, like, the engines and the engineering of the ship and stuff. So that's the funny thing about that book. Like, my friend Chris, he picked up the book and he goes, "You're going to read this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like looking at it, and it's all just statistics and diagnostics and how stuff was engineered. And he's like, "Okay," you know, you know, that's the kind of books I read now. So, let's see. Oliver Sherman says, can you do what if videos about ocean liners? Like, what if Titanic didn't sink? What if Queen Mary did sink? I'm no longer going to cover Titanic in any videos anymore, just because of the amount of pushback I get from the Titanic community. So I don't cover Titanic anymore. But I don't mind doing certain what if videos, but it has to be something that I think is important for me to talk about. So, you know, I made a video about, you know, what if Queen Mary hit Titanic's iceberg. I thought that was a really interesting topic because I thought, well, let's show people what changed in just a matter of 24 years. Let's show them how things changed. The ironic thing was that a lot of people who watched that video, not the majority, but a lot of people who watched it were like, well, of course Queen Mary would fare better because she's 24 years newer. And she's built with all the stuff that made Titanic not safe is now safe for Queen Mary. I'm like, I understand that. But the point of the video was to show people what had changed. What made her safer. So, anyway, but that was a good video, I think. And it was just a what if. But yeah, I might do more what if videos, but it has to be something important, I think. I don't want to do just willy-nilly stuff because I get a lot of flack for it. So if I'm going to get ripped apart by viewers for making videos like that, it's got to be a video that is really good. Have you heard that people want the Queen Mary's horn to run on steam even though there is no audible difference? There is an audible difference, but it's not as big as the fans think it is. There's a lot of fans who are like, oh, it sounds 100 times different than, you know, and I'm like, it doesn't. It sounds very similar. But anyway, to answer your question, yes, I have heard that people want it to run on Steam. It will never run on Steam again. It will never run on Steam again because, for one thing, that will require more maintenance. And they're already having a problem paying for maintenance on the ship. So they're not going to do something that's going to make the ship need even more maintenance. And so, yeah, Steam, running the horns on Steam is certainly not going to be an option. Especially considering the sheer volume of steam that is required to run those horns means a massive boiler using up constant energy. I mean, you would have to feed energy into that boiler. Just a lot. Like, it would have to be an electric boiler. But still, like, can you imagine having a boiler that is constantly hot and all it's doing all day long is supplying steam for the horns? So you could say, oh, well, maybe they could make it supply steam for the kitchens. Well, the kitchens don't need that high a pressure of steam, nor do they need that much volume of steam. So there's no reason for a boiler that big. So it'll never run on steam again. Not unless they put it on a new steamship, but I don't see that happening. If you kept jumping at the same spot on a ship, would you eventually fall off? I don't see why you would. Jeez, these ants, they're everywhere today. Get away from my plate. I'm just going to hold my tea because I don't want them to climb on this plate and then, like, get in my tea. Okay, so where was I? Corgi says, Alex, love your videos and streams. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Nick Moore says, I'm glad I could join a live stream today. I'm usually busy during the normal times. Oh, well, good. I'm glad you're here. Alex, do you own a car? No, I do not. I don't drive because I have incredible anxiety behind the wheel. It's really bad. I've almost gotten in car wrecks because of the anxiety, so I don't drive. C-Quad says, when the Queen Mary opens, I think I'll be going in 2023. Nice. Granny Gaming says, what was the last ship to have the Cunard White Star name? Do you mean like the last one to literally have the name on it, or the last one to be built with the Cunard White Star name? You know what? Either way, I don't know. I'll just have to admit that right there. Either way, I don't know. Let's see. C-Quad says, I know there's a book called The Book of Comparisons for the Queen Mary. Yeah, it's not really a book so much as a pamphlet. So it's a pamphlet that shows different comparisons of Queen Mary's size and the accommodations and things that she has. So, actually, there is a video I've been thinking about making that compares the size of Queen Mary to other practical things in this world. Because I've heard people ask me so many weird questions. Now, I'm not going to make fun of people for asking these questions, because I think that, you know, honest to God, some people just don't have a sense of size. They don't understand how big something is. I've had people that say, why didn't Disney just put the Queen Mary in the rivers of America at Disneyland? And the truth of the matter is because the Queen Mary is larger than the entire rivers of America at Disneyland. You know, you know, you could fit the rivers of America inside Queen Mary, essentially. So, you know, things like that. So, you know, so I thought, wouldn't it be really cool to make a video that shows the Queen Mary compared to all these things? And so I think that might be another video I'll produce. Maybe I'll have it out for next Tuesday. Steven says, if you want Queen Mary, this is a book by C.W.R. Winter. Is awesome, very funny, and based on his time as an officer aboard. Nice. There is a book that I knew about. I don't know the name, but it was written by one of the... Was it a cabin steward aboard the Queen Mary? Yeah. So I thought, when I have money, I'll get that book. TT says, what is the point of life? You know, it's funny, I normally don't answer questions that have nothing to do with the live stream, but I think that is an important question. And even though it has nothing to do with my live stream, people always say, what is the point of life? I think the point of life is that you have to make a point of life. I think that you can't expect life to give you a purpose. You have to seek out that purpose and make one for yourself. And so yeah, I think that's what life is about. It's about making a purpose. And so, yeah. Fun Edit says, what is the most similar ship to the Queen Mary? The Queen Elizabeth. Jose says, in which internet page can I download the deck plans of transatlantic liners like Oceanic, Lusitania, Mauretania? You know, I don't know. But if you find one, let me know. Because I've only been able to find random bits and pieces. I have never been able to find some high quality, large images of the deck plans. I don't think there is a website that has all of them. Again, high quality, large. I don't think there is one, but if you find one, let me know. Jose says, hi Alex, I have a doubt. Okay, well let me know. I don't know what it is. Robert says, is it me or are these live streams starting earlier and earlier? No, I think I've only done 4 and 12 p.m. So, yeah. I do 12 p.m. because it's really hot today. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually sweating right now. I'm actually sweating. It is so hot in here. And I had to close the window because of the gardeners. So, but yeah, I had to start this live stream early today because I knew that at 4 p.m. today, it is going to be so unbearably hot, I'm not going to be able to do a live stream. So, yeah. Oliver says, would a paddle steamer like the one at Disneyland be able to cross the Atlantic or any other ocean? Technically, no, because if it ran into a storm, it would be, you know, you might as well make it sink, because if it crosses a storm, I don't know any other words except for the bad words. You know, it'll be SOL. You know, there's no way. But if hypothetically speaking, you knew it was going to be perfectly calm water all the way across the Atlantic, then, and you carried enough fuel with you and enough water with you, maybe. But those steam riverboats were not designed to desalinate water. They weren't designed to carry that much fuel. So you would need to carry a separate ship with water and fuel aboard to supply for a riverboat. And you would have to hope that the weather was perfectly calm with a completely flat ocean. So I would have to say essentially no, it's not possible. TT says, do you think that with less you can be satisfied in life? I think so. I mean, you know, besides my fancy tea set, I really don't have much else to my name. I don't have a car. I don't have a big house. I don't have, you know, I live with very little. And in the past, I've lived with even less. And I think, yeah, you can be happy with less. You know, I think as long as you're well cared for, and I think as long as you have the people around you that you want to be around you, I think, yeah, you can be quite happy with less. I myself have no desire to be a major superstar. Like, people think like, oh, Alex started his channel because he wants to be famous and he wants to have notoriety. I'm like, no, that's not why I started my channel. I started my channel because my mom died and I needed to get my mind off of things. And I maintained my channel because I wanted, you know, because I want to talk about things I love to talk about. I love ocean liners. I love trains. I love Disneyland. I want to talk about those things. And so that's why I do what I do. I was lucky enough that I have a subscriber base now that I was able to turn it into a form of income, you know. So when my own business closed due to the pandemic, I had no other jobs, no other prospects. YouTube was able to support me that way because I built up that viewer base. I make less money now than I've ever made in my life, but I'm happier today than I was just 2 years ago. And so that's why I say I live with less now, because technically I do. I make half as much money now than I've ever made. So, but I'm happy. So, yeah, I think you can be happy living with less. Let's see. Yeah, Rena, if I find out about a place with floor plans, then I can, you know, then I'll let you know, but I haven't found anything. I have some floor plans, like some deck plans of the ships. Let's see. I have Lusitania, Titanic, Queen Mary, of course. Oceanic, but only parts of Oceanic. And then parts of Johann von Oldenbarnevelt. But nothing too complete, you know? One of the deck plans I really want to have, I really, really want to have a complete and full list of deck plans for Queen Elizabeth. But, you know... let's see. Main Street Matt says, do you have any plans to visit Disneyland anytime soon? Technically no, but I mean, I was planning to go visit the Queen Mary when it reopens, if it reopens in October. I might spend one day at Disneyland, but I'm going to do it with my friends. I want to have... I haven't seen some of my friends in 2 years, so I want to have some alone time with my friends and stuff, so I'm not going to do a meetup at Disneyland. And then, you know, I have family down in Southern California that I haven't seen in 2 years, so I'm going to meet up with some family. Maybe not at Disneyland, but outside Disneyland. Probably on the Queen Mary. So I do plan to do some kind of meetup on the Queen Mary. I haven't fully decided yet because, again, we live in a really crazy world now. And I am actually pretty concerned for my safety, meeting up with people and scheduling a meetup time. So, because I have ran into people at Disneyland before, people who didn't like me and gave me a piece of their mind while I was in the park. So I'd be worried about meeting up with people, you know, in person. It is something I have to consider now, especially with how crazy things get. I mean, you know, every day you hear information about, you know, oh, this person, you know, became violent when McDonald's didn't give them their ketchup. I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is the world we live in now, you know? C-Quad says, I think there's one low quality. It's called Sterling RM PLC. I think I go on to look at RMS Queen Mary. Yeah, Sterling has deck plans of the Queen Mary, but I haven't seen any deck plans of Queen Elizabeth on there. Alex Historian Fan says, what mic is that? Sounds great. It's not even a good mic. This particular mic is just a cheap... It's just a cheap mic. It's called Fifine technology. I don't even think they have it on Amazon anymore. The one I use for my history videos is very different from this. This is just a... I don't even know what they call this. It's a type of microphone that records every sound that's in front of it. But I have a special Rode microphone that I use for my documentaries. The Rode microphone is much cleaner, more crisp, and it only picks up my voice. So I use that one. Granny Gaming says, do ships still use SOS? I don't know. I think so. Does your building have AC? No, it does not. Again, you know, most buildings, most homes in the Pacific Northwest don't have air conditioning. Let's see. Well, so Jose says to me, I have a doubt. So I say, okay, what is that doubt? And then he doesn't respond at all. And then he says, okay, Alex, I shall. Thanks. I didn't answer. I didn't even hear a question. Technoblade says, hey, Alex, Queen Mary may be sinking. No, she's not. I have plenty of videos that talk about why the Queen Mary, you know, will not be sinking. I have videos that talk about the true condition of the ship. Let me just tell everybody here and now, if you read stuff online about the Queen Mary, just keep in mind that those newspapers, they're not just giving away news for free. They rely on you clicking and reading that stuff. So they will put titles and descriptions in their articles that blow things out of proportion to make it more interesting to read. They have computers that monitor how long of a time you're spending reading their article, how much of the article you have seen and scrolled through, you know, and so they tailor their stories to make it so you read the entire article and you spend the most time on it. So because of that, the information that they tell you in these articles is not 100% accurate, and it's entirely tailored towards keeping your interest. So keep that in mind, folks. The Queen Mary is not close to sinking. You know, it's just a bunch of hooey that was blown out of proportion to make stuff more interesting. So, let's see. Rena says, thanks for sharing about your life and answering philosophical questions. My pleasure. I mean, you know, if the way I see it, if I have lived through something that could help somebody else through that same thing, then I'm going to try to share it, you know. Tomcat says, I wonder why the world has become so crazy. What has gone wrong with some people? You know, honestly, I really don't know. But somewhere along the lines, people just thought that it's now acceptable to go berserk over the littlest things. Somewhere along the lines, people thought this is the appropriate reaction to something so small. So I honestly don't know. And it is scary, you know. It's, you know, I still get news reports, you know, on YouTube. It gets recommended to me for places in Orange County I used to live in Southern California. And I see these news reports and I'm like, thank God I don't live there anymore. It sounds like the worst place in the world to be, you know, like all these things happening every single day. And I worry about my family who lives in Southern California. It's dangerous to be down there. You know, and it's just like, I love where I live right now. Where I live right now, I'm far enough away from the big city that I feel safe. The other thing, too, is that I live in these forested suburbs. So they're suburbs, but there's a lot of patches of forest and trees everywhere. So it's quieter, generally speaking. Of course, they're building a new apartment complex next door, so I don't know how quiet it's going to be now on, but you know, so, you know, like my sister and I, we've been trying to convince my dad to move up here, you know, because we're concerned for him, his safety, his livelihood, you know, so, you know, it is sad. We live in a really crazy world now. Grandin Gaming says, what are these pictures? They're pictures of various Cunard ships. Sequad says, if you had a time machine, Alex, would you go back then or to the future? I suppose I go into the past, because at least the past, I have an idea of what has happened already. I have an idea of what to expect. I don't like to do things where I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't like to corner myself in a situation that I don't understand the outcome. And so I would not want to travel to the future, because I don't know what to expect. And but if I know that if I travel to the past, I have an idea of what to expect. I have an idea of what I might need, you know, to get through that experience. So I would say the past. Chilling says, I wouldn't worry about what other people say and think. Just go out and enjoy yourself. Most people think they think, but they're just regurgitating what other idiots have told them. You know, yeah, Chilling. I think, I'm not sure if you're talking about, like, when I said that I'm not going to do, like, a meetup. If that's what you're talking about, the reason why isn't just because I'm afraid someone's going to yell at me. the reason why is I'm literally afraid for my safety. I have had people on my channel send me death threats. Thankfully, a lot of them don't know who I am. They don't know anything about me. They don't know where I live. They don't know anything like that. So I'm very thankful for that. But I have received death threats on this channel. That is what makes me afraid to do a meetup with people, because I don't know everybody, you know, and it used to be that I could meet up with, I had a lot of Disney viewers back when I was only a Disney themed channel, and I used to meet up with them at the park at times, and it was fun, and, you know, and we had a good time, but that was more than 2 years ago. The world has shifted since then, and so I am actually more nervous about doing it now. Because like I said, you got people who are literally, you know, shooting up a McDonald's because they don't get their order right. Like, imagine what would happen, you know, if you have someone who hates you because they think you are telling history incorrectly. You know, like, it's just, it's sad. Like, this is the things I have to think about. Like, will I be safe meeting up with viewers? Like, I shouldn't have to think about that. I should be able to hang out with you guys and have fun and go places and do things and have a fun time. But I have to consider, you know, the ins and outs and the ways abouts of, you know, of meeting up with strangers. Let's see. Hey, Mark Cooper, how you doing? Main Street Matt says, I'm glad you're enjoying your time in the Pacific Northwest. I've lived in Oregon most of my life. Yeah, it's really nice. You know, the quality of living is, at least where I live, is better. You know, I have a friend that lives in a different part of Oregon, and he doesn't like that part. But he still likes it better than his old home, so that's for sure. But yeah, so it's really nice. I really enjoy it up here. Granny Gaming says, if you could ride any ocean liner during its time, which would you ride? The Queen Mary, of course. TT says, what kind of history topics do you like the most except ocean liners? Well, trains and Disneyland history. Let's see. What other history topics do I like? I like anything that has to do with steam power or the age of steam, at least. The Victorian era. I love the Edwardian era as well. Yeah, I'm not much for world history or the history of a particular nation. I'm really more of a arts and engineering and design buff. So my history interests are based around that. So you'll see that in my channel. In my channel, I have videos about various things, and in the future, I'll have even more. But you know, I have videos about like the history and design of certain places and things and stuff like that. So like my Benson Hotel video, for instance, you know, it talks about the history of the hotel, but not just about that, but, you know, the style and design the hotel was built in, as well as the amazing life of what's his name? Jeez. Simon Benson. C-Quad says, Alex, you're a nice person. Why the heck do people send threats to you? That's some people for you. Yeah, I mean, you know, I remember the first threat I ever got was the first time I ever posted a video about the Rolling Mary. So the Rolling Mary video I have out now is a redo of the original. And the original I posted about a year or two ago. And there was someone on there who was just so disgruntled about my video. He basically said like everything in my video was false, even though I have research to back it up. You know, it's like, even if the research was false, it's not my research, it was someone else's. So the thing is like, this person was so disgruntled. I didn't even say much, you know. And then I think what ticked them off the most was the thumbnail image of the video. If those of you who've seen it, it's the Queen Mary with a massive wave heading over the ship. This person did not like that. They said, this is clickbait. I said, how is this clickbait? This is literally a scene I talk about in the video. And they're like, oh, you should have shown a historic photo. I'm like, a historic photo of what? No one captured this on a picture. There was no other ship next to the Queen Mary when this wave came over. I said I needed a photo that perfectly encapsulated everything the video was about. And that was this image that I created. But he was so angry, and he was just like, oh, look at you backpedaling and blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then they were just like, oh, just wait till I find you. Your days are numbered. I'm just like, oh my God, like, just craziness. I've had other people who have threatened my friends. So some people ask, Alex, how come your Disneyland vlogs are no longer on the channel? I used to go to the park every week, film my experience at the park. I used to tell the history of the rides and the attractions, and I used to walk through the park giving history lessons every week. I loved doing it. And I had, I think, like somewhere around like 80 videos on that. And I had to take them all down because I was receiving threats from people who were not only threatening me, they were threatening my friends who were in those videos. And I thought, you know, it's one thing to threaten me and have my safety, myself in danger, but I'm not going to let my friends get in danger over something I filmed. So I took all the videos down. I actually put them in my what do you call it? My membership series, because, you know, I didn't want to remove them entirely. I don't have copies of them. So if I remove them, they're deleted forever. And I didn't want to delete them forever. So, but yeah, I removed them from public view because I was afraid for my friends, you know. And so, especially like one of my friends, he's like the nicest guy in the world. And like, I didn't want him to get hurt, you know. It's just like, yeah. So, it's really crazy, the world we live in now. I've only gotten death threats the last 2 years. So, since 2020. I didn't receive those kinds of threats before. I had people who got angry, but no one had ever threatened to punch me or to kill me before. Not until 2020. And then ever since then, it became more common to see that on my channel. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So be careful, everybody. Be careful out there. I mean, don't live in fear, like me. Don't live in fear. I mean, you want to know why I don't have a P.O. box, why I don't let people send me things in the mail? That's why. I'm afraid I'm going to open a letter from a fan, and then there's going to be, like, arsenic in there or something, you know? Like, I'm so afraid of that. So that's why I don't have any of that stuff. But you guys shouldn't live in fear, but just be cautious of everything you do. Especially, I've seen a lot of road rage incidents recently. People getting killed on the freeways over road rage. So don't ever let another driver make you angry. If they're a crazy person, just let them go. Let them go. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. So, yeah. Oliver Sherman. Oliver, did you see my videos about the Queen Mary in World War II? I think you'll like those. Yeah, Conrad, you're right. You know, the extreme example makes it clear what the subject is, and it's meant to capture one's attention. You know, when you think about it, it's the same thing with a lot of movie posters. So, movie posters are designed to capture your attention. They often feature an over dramatized image of what the movie is about in order to capture your attention. And some of them do it in a very spectacular way. Like the original Jurassic Park poster, which was just the logo of the park, that was enough to make people go, "What is this movie? I want to see it now." Genius. But aside from that, that's what movie posters are, and that's kind of what video thumbnails on YouTube are. They're a movie poster for your video. And you know, the thing is I would love for me to have simple thumbnails, because believe me, it takes me like a couple hours sometimes to make a video thumbnail. I would rather just take a photo of Queen Mary, put it on the thumbnail with some words like the title of the video. Problem is, that doesn't capture people's attention. I know, because I've watched the analytics over the years. And you know, and so you'd think like, "Oh, I'm a fan of Queen Mary, I'll watch Queen Mary videos." But it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the video the thumbnail has to capture your attention for you to watch it. And the information has been proven successful if you have a catchy thumbnail. So I try not to do anything that is clickbait. I try to always show the the subject matter of the video. You know, I could easily make a thumbnail that shows a cat hanging out the edge of a window, and then like people click on it and it's a video about the Queen Mary. That would probably get millions of views, all by clickbait. But I don't do that. I try to make it relate to the videos. So if anybody feels like my thumbnails are clickbait, first of all, just know that at least it's not something entirely unrelated. Like, have you ever seen like a thumbnail and it shows like a whale exploding, and then the video is actually about like a bunch of horses at a ranch? Like, it has nothing to do with the like. At least I don't do that. That's real clickbait. But the other thing too is also consider the times we live in. You know, 10 years ago, or not even then, 6 years ago, when I first started making videos, you didn't have to make such clickbait thumbnails, because there weren't as many YouTubers as there are today, so people still had time to watch videos. But nowadays, all the YouTubers are competing with each other. They're all competing for the views. I am too. You know, I mean, what's the point in me spending 2 months making a history video that no one's gonna watch? So I have to invest time in making an interesting thumbnail. I want people to see my video. You know, so that is part of the thing. So, yeah, if anybody feels like I make clickbait thumbnails, just remember those two things: the times we live in, and the fact that at least my thumbnails relate to the video. So, Scatino says that should be a law matter because you should not be allowed to do that. Yeah, you shouldn't. In fact, I did report that person. Of course, it is hard to report these people when they have fake accounts. So you report them, and the police are like, "Well, we don't know who this person is. It's a fake account." So, but I do report threats. People are monsters, yeah. Scott says, yes, someone last week in Boston threw a water bottle at our car and swiped us off the road because of road rage. Oh my God. I don't get it. I don't understand people who have that kind of road rage. Like, is it really worth going to prison for killing people just because someone cut you off? And even then, some people cut people off by accident. And it's not worth it, people. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, like, for the crazy people out there, it's not worth, putting others in danger. Oliver Sherman says, do you like naval history? Not really. I have visited some military ships, and they're interesting to look at. They're interesting to learn about, but I don't have enough interest to make videos about them. So, Dragon Dude says, when is the layout going to stop looking like a winter wonderland? Maybe when I have more money. So, I don't know. If I have a lot more money, I can invest a lot more money into it and actually start building it. But I don't have that kind of money right now. So, let's see. Conrad says, imagine if your thumbnail was an animated GIF with a piano sliding back and forth. You laugh, but that might be a thing. I wouldn't doubt if a couple years in the future, video thumbnails are actually GIFs. Or GIFs, or whatever you want to call them. Because you know what? Like, the way I think of it, people's attention spans, in general, not you guys, but just in general, are becoming shorter and shorter. And so video thumbnails may not be enough to capture their attention. It might be possible that YouTube will create a feature that generates a constantly moving GIF or GIF of the video at hand. And yeah, I don't even know what that'll be like, but my goodness, I do not look forward to that day, because if I have to create the GIF myself, oh man, I'll be done for. Yeah, history has shaped our society. It's important to learn from history. Granny Gaming says, how much does it cost to go to Disneyland? Your soul. Conrad says, I wonder if people even know the golden rule, let alone live by it. I honestly couldn't tell you. It doesn't seem like many people know the golden rule anymore. Yeah, people are monsters. Alex Historian Fan says, what is the train in the background? It is a ON30 scale train. It is a freight train hauling 2 boxcars, 1 cattle car, 2 gondolas, 1 caboose, and it is being pulled by a Forney-style locomotive. It is a narrow gauge train, so even though it is O scale, it is running on HO scale tracks. That's why it's called ON30. And again, I would love to complete this layout, but it costs a lot of money. The tracks all need replacing, and that alone is around at least $350. Let me put that again. $350 to replace the current tracks I have with better ones that'll run more efficiently. I don't have that kind of money. Like, no way. That's why I'm using HO scale instead of true ON30 rails, is because the HO scale is cheaper. And right now I'm already seeing problems with having HO scale tracks. They're just not big enough to handle the trains. They have their own problems. So yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a mess. Oh, gosh. Seaquad, wow, that is incredible. He was in a bomber. Seaquad says, I agree, Alex, it costs an arm and a leg to go there. It really does. It's a lot of money. It's expensive. Swag says, hey, Alex, am I blocked, or do you not, or you don't want to remember that, or do you don't want to talk to me? If I haven't responded, it's because there's nothing I can respond to. The last thing you said was, do you agree with Oliver? And I answered. I said, yes, I agree. It's important to learn from history. So I did answer your last question. So no, I'm not ignoring you. Scatino says, to go to Disneyland, you'll need to harvest your kidneys, sell your limbs, and lastly, give up your soul to the mouse. Yes, indeed. Yeah, let's say it's winter on the train layout. I tell you, when the thing has, like, trees and buildings and stuff on it, and, you know, of course, properly built up groundwork and stuff, it'll look amazing. In fact, I can't wait till I get to that point, you know, like, I don't like looking at it the way it is now, but I need so many things. Like, even if I wasn't to replace the tracks, even if I was just to deal with the tracks as they are, I still need a lot of money to invest in, like, building it, because, like, the buildings, they require parts. Like, I plan to make most of the I plan to make 90% of the buildings myself by hand. But there are certain things I cannot make by hand. I'm not skilled enough. Those things are, like, properly nicely built doors and windows and doorknobs and chimneys and stuff like that. Those things I will need to buy separately, and those you have to buy in packs, and they cost a lot of money, and it adds up, you know. One of the things I thought, I'm like, oh, one of the things I can do first is fix my Titanic model, because you guys have probably seen my Titanic model. It is over 10 years old. It is really beat up. It needs a major overhaul, and I can do it. But someone broke into my garage a couple months back, maybe almost a year ago now. Someone broke into my garage about a year ago and stole the air pump that I used for painting. I had an airbrush system. They stole the air pump. Really weird. They didn't steal my flat screen TV. They didn't steal, like, anything else of value. They stole the air pump. So I need a new one. Those air pumps alone cost $100. And I don't make that much money, you know, like, I make enough to live, you know, but at $100, I have to consider, all right, do I buy the air pump or do I buy groceries? I buy groceries. So when I have excess money, then I'll do that. In fact, I do have a little bit of excess money, but I'm saving the excess that I've got for two things. I'm saving part of it for my trip to visit the Queen Mary when the ship reopens this fall. And then the other thing I'm saving up for is my trip to the UK aboard the Queen Mary 2, the voyage. So I'm saving up for those two things. So I'm carefully, like, deciding where the money should go. Because some people are specifically donating money to me to go on that UK trip, so I have to make sure I'm helping with that as well. I don't want everybody to pay for it for me. I've got to put my own money into that. So I got money going into that, and I got money going into my trip this fall to the original Queen Mary. So, and so far, so good for that one. For the original Queen Mary Southern California trip. Looks like that's going to go smoothly. But the UK trip is going to take more money. But, let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah, you know, Oliver, my great-grandfather was in World War II as well, but I never asked him where he was stationed, what he did. I don't know whether he was in the Navy or the Army. I think he was in the Navy, but I don't know for certain. I mean, he's long gone now, but I wished when I was younger I had actually asked him some of those things. I have a feeling, I don't know for certain, because I've seen old photographs. In fact, somewhere I still have his war photographs. They might be in a storage in Southern California, in fact. I don't know. But I have them. And And I think in the photos, he was traveling aboard the Queen Mary off to war. So now that I'm a Queen Mary fan, now that I'm actually interested in that kind of thing, now I'm dying to see those photographs again to confirm. But yeah. Swag says, wait, they stole an air pump. Yes, they stole an air pump. It was for an airbrushing system. So I get the smooth paint scheme on my models using an airbrush system. And the airbrush system was given to me by my father because he no longer builds models anymore. So he gave it to me. And in the almost 2 years I've lived up here, I haven't built any models, so I kept it in the garage. And then just a few months before moving into this apartment, I found out that the garage was broken into, and seemingly the person didn't steal anything, which was weird. Because we came up to the garage was wide open. And at first we didn't realize that they took anything. We were just looking around and like, well, maybe they thought our junk was worthless, Like, he didn't steal the flat screen TV I had. Like, I have an extra TV that I don't really use. And I think he figured maybe he wasn't going to steal it because if it wasn't in use, maybe it's useless. But what he did steal was the air pump. Now, what I was told was that this person was going around breaking into people's garages, taking utility equipment. So he was taking things like chainsaws, hammers, drills, like power tools mostly. And he took my air pump. So he wasn't after anything of value, really. He was after tools, which was just, again, weird. So, really weird. Kevin says, I've seen people that have train sets that must have cost thousands of dollars. Oh, you can bet, yeah. When I was younger, when I was still working for Disney, I had built an N-scale train layout. That probably represented a total of of course this was built over the course of years, but it probably amounted to close to $800 worth of investment over the years. So it is expensive. This is expensive. Even the track that the trains are running on right now, all this track altogether, and I got it on sale, had cost me about $300. And that was on sale. So the new track I need is more expensive, and it's never on sale. The new track I need is actually built for the scale that this train is. And therefore it's tougher, it's more rugged, it can handle the heavier trains. But it'll cost like at least $350. At least. Oh, so that's why that's why the train layouts, that's why they take a lifetime for these people to build, is because, you don't have all that money just sitting around all at once, So, Nemes says, Alex, I've been following you since the Disney vlogs, and you're right, Disney's not the same. I'm not interested in Disney anymore. It's all about Universal now. Yeah, I did lose a lot of my interest in Disney. The history, no, I'm still quite interested in Disney history, but I've lost my interest in the park as it is today. It's not the same Disneyland it used to be. It's not even the same Disney company it used to be. It's just a lot of the things they produce now is just like, it's just, I don't want to insult people who still like it, but it's just not what I'm looking for. It's just like, the stories are not well written. It's very lazy writing, and formulaic. Oh, very formulaic. I think my friend pointed out that after Disney created, what was it, Zootopia, Disney was like, We figured out the winning formula. And so now all their videos follow the same kind of formula that Zootopia is. And I'm like, that makes sense. Yeah, I can agree with that. Because all their movies now are the same. It's the same story. It's just different characters. So, you know, it's just, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So, Dragon Dude says, what's that cable car? So, this is a collectible gift that my friend sent me a couple weeks ago. He found this, I don't know, maybe at some kind of thrift store. And it's a music box, actually. So what you do is you twist this. Sorry, the dust, it kicked up. It literally got in my nose. So you twist this, and it will produce music. I would twist it and do that, but then it might never shut up, so... but yeah, pretty cool. That's the same friend who sent me this poster, by the way. So, yeah, that's my friend Jason. He's got his own YouTube channel, Interactive Realm. He builds props and signs and stuff, and a lot of it is from Disney. So he's really talented. So you guys should check him out. He's built some things. I have some of the stuff that he's built for me, but one of them is broken. I still haven't fixed it, but it's in the closet right now. But yeah, do I have anything else that he's built for me that's up here somewhere? No. But yeah, so cool channel. Oliver says it's called Zootropolis in the UK. Oh wow. Yeah, I know they name things differently depending on, like, you know, like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. In the US it was called the Sorcerer's Stone. And I was watching the special features of the movie, and they were like, "Oh, we called it," you know, they ended up calling it the Sorcerer's Stone because they didn't think American kids would know what a philosopher was. And I'm like, well, that is a sad statement. Might be true, but it's a sad statement. Oh, LMG Vids is here. And he's answering Dragon Dudes. Yeah. Dragon Dude says, what exactly is that formula? And LMG Vids says, two people who don't like each other are forced on an adventure. They get close, but due to a misunderstanding, break up. Lastly, they come back together and save the day. Yep, there you go. Yep. Very formulaic. Chilling says, Alex, have you considered building models as a side hustle? I have, in fact. At one point, I was even telling viewers on my channel that I might actually start a business where I build models for people. But then it occurred to me, one, I would need to send those models to people. I don't have a car, so it wouldn't be easy for me to get to the post office to do that, nor have it, you know, mailed from my house. And even if I do, there comes the other issue, which is the death threats I get. I don't want people to have my address. I don't want people to know exactly where I live. You know, like, I never know. Like, what if I send someone a model and the carrier crushes the model and the person blames me? You know, like, you know, who knows? So there is that problem. And then lastly, the other problem, too, is that I devote so much time to this channel, I realized I don't even have time to build my own models. So it's kind of like, if I had more time, then maybe I could do it. Especially if it made me money, I could definitely do it. But it's not a bad idea, and I'm not against it. I just need to, I need to figure out how I'm going to do it. So, yeah. So I'm not going to say I'm not going to say the idea has been put away or brushed off. It's on the back burner for now. But I do still plan to do something like that where I make models or something for people. That would be a really cool business to have. Let's see. Swag says, hey, Alex, have you ever heard of my Britannic or Georgic? I've heard of the ships. I don't know much about them, but yeah, I've heard of the ships. Derpy says, I kind of want to make a movie just to make fun of all the formulas and tropes. Yeah, that would be fun. Conrad says, that formula is very similar to the old Three's Company's TV show. Is it? Two people forced together. They don't get along. I remember Three's Company being that they come up with these harebrained schemes to do stuff. Someone always misinterprets what's happening. It's actually, come to think of it, it reminds me of the formula they used for I Love Lucy. You know, Lucy would always, she'd get upset about something, and then she and Ethel would conspire to like get back at Ricky or get back at Fred, and then they do this crazy thing. And so that Three's Company, from what I remember, it was similar to that. Three's Company was pretty funny. I haven't seen it since I was a teenager, though. Granny Gaming says, is there anything different between the Disneyland from where you are to the Disney World in Florida? Oh, there are a lot of differences. A lot. I can't even begin. Oh, don't make me. Don't make me. It's a lot. I would just, honestly, if I were you, if you want to really know, there's tons of channels out there. LMG Vids, he's in the chat right now. Go to his channel. He's got videos of Disneyland, and he's got videos of Disney World. And so you can actually see the differences. He's got walkthroughs of the parks. He's got ride-throughs of the parks. And you can literally compare and contrast and see the differences. So that's one of the ways you can learn that. Another way you can learn is I have videos. So I just the other day, I posted a video about how Disneyland was created. So if you guys haven't seen that video, please go watch it. And then I have a sequel video to that, which was actually made a long time ago. It's about how Walt Disney World was created. So those two videos can actually teach you a lot about the differences between the approach on how to build those two parks. So, yeah, so I do recommend you watch that. Hope for Change says, do you collect ocean liner postcards? I found 3 in an antique store, including Europa. Now I want to find more. I have one antique postcard, and then I have like a collection of newer postcards. But I don't specifically collect them. I think if I found them at an antique store, I would buy them, but I don't actively seek them out. Wyatt says, if you would do models, I would think they would probably be good if you're overseeing them, because I can't find any at all. Yeah, you know, I would love to create like models of certain ocean liners and have them all done in the same scale. The only thing is, of all the different kinds of models I could make, ocean liners are going to be the hardest. When I was saying building models, I was thinking more like buildings for your train layouts, or, you know, or I don't know, something like a model of an artifact from Queen Mary or something. But ocean liners are really, really difficult to produce, because if I start producing, let's say, a model of Queen Mary, I'm probably going to get tons and tons of people wanting that. And I will never be able to keep up with that. Look at Titanic, Honor and Glory. They used to sell models of ocean liners. And now they only sell the unpainted versions because they got so backlogged on orders that now they can't keep up with it. And it's years later, they're still trying to keep up with it. So yeah, I would say that it would be very difficult for me to make you guys ocean liner models. I would love to, but I don't foresee myself being able to do it. Especially because if I was to make an ocean liner model, I would need someone who has graphics making skills to create a three-dimensional model of the Queen Mary, of Titanic, of various other ships, so we could 3D print them. But I don't know anybody who has that kind of skill or who would want to go in on that, you know. Let's see. Disney World and Disney Studios, both in Florida. Do you like movies from the 50s through the 90s? I don't like movies from the 50s through the 60s. But there are movies in the 70s, 80s, and 90s I really like. Lil Man says, do you have a girlfriend? No, I am gay. Granny Gaming says, I wish Canada had a Disney. That would be kind of cool. Chilling says, I asked about model building because I looked at buying a model of the SS America. The prices were quite high. That's why I asked. Well, because I was looking to buying a model of that. Oh, a model of the SS America. Yeah, I don't know that I would make a model of the SS America, even if I was making models. What is the least favorite ship besides Queen Mary? I can't tell you that because it would make a lot of people very angry. Would you consider making shipwreck models? I mean, I could. If I had to make it by hand, I would need to charge thousands of dollars for it to make a profit. I don't know anybody who would pay thousands of dollars. I mean, they might. There might be people who would be willing to pay thousands of dollars for that. But then I wouldn't know if my skills would be enough to produce that. So they might look at it and go, oh, that's not worth that money, you know. I feel like the models I would have to produce would need to be 3D printed. So I could paint them, that's for sure. I'm very good at painting models. I could paint them. But to craft them by hand, I couldn't manufacture that. That would take, I mean, imagine it, like, if I had to build a model of the Queen Mary by hand to sell, that would probably take me a solid year to do. And that's just one model. So, let's see. A disclaimer. You have a disclaimer that you are not a professional historian. Had anyone ever actually asked? Yes, actually. A lot of people have asked me if I'm a professional historian. Well, actually, the reason why I created the disclaimer was because there were a lot of people who were accusing me of being a fraud. They said, oh, you're a fraud. You're passing yourself off as a historian when you're not really. And I had to explain that when my channel first started, it was never meant to be taken seriously. My channel used to be about Disneyland. And I do consider myself a Disneyland historian because I know way more about it than anybody I've ever met. But the thing is, and I've studied Disneyland since I was a child. But the thing is that the name Alex the Historian came from when I used to work at Disney. My coworkers, they knew I knew a lot about the park, and when someone had a question, they'd say, "Oh, Alex the Historian over here can answer that for you." So it was a nickname. It was like a joke nickname that people gave me, and I thought that's kind of funny. I can use that for my channel. And so I put that on the channel as my name, and I didn't have too many problems with it when I was doing Disney videos. It wasn't until I started doing ocean liner videos and other stuff that people started calling me a fraud and a trickster and, you know, and stuff. And I kept trying to explain to people, you know, And so last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but last year, late fall, early winter, I changed my channel name. I changed it to vintage history, or I forget what I changed it to. It was it was so brief. I told everybody for a solid month, I told everybody constantly, don't forget my channel's name is changing. It's changing. And I thought, that'll be good. For a solid month, I told everybody. I changed my channel name and my views plummeted. Nobody came to see my videos. Why? Because they didn't recognize the channel name that popped up in their subscription. So when they would get a notification that a video was published, even if it was a video they would like to watch, they didn't watch because they didn't recognize the person who made it. So they thought, oh, well, I'll just wait for Alex to make a video on this or something. I don't know, whatever they thought. So my views plummeted. I would put out a video and it would get 100 views as opposed to 10,000 that I would normally get. It killed the channel to change the name. And I dealt with it for 2 months, and finally I was like, no, I have to change it back. It's killing, the channel's like dying. So I changed it back to Alex the Historian. All of a sudden everybody was like, where have you been? It's been like months since you've been. I'm like, I've been here making videos, you know, like, so, and, you know, so that's kind of what happened. So it, you know, and the thing is, I have friends who have, you know, popular channels, and even they tell me, they're like, you know, changing your channel name this late in the game it's not good. You know, it's easy to change your channel name when you're new and you're not very well known, but when you have, you know, 25,000+ subscribers, it's not a good idea to change your channel name. So I have a disclaimer on pretty much every video now that mentions that I'm not a university educated historian. That way people don't feel like I'm trying to impersonate a historian. Because believe me, that's not what I'm going for at all. You know, if I wanted to impersonate someone for notoriety, it would not be a historian. I would probably, like, impersonate someone way more famous and interesting than a historian. So, but yeah, that's the reason. Let's see. Chris, my favorite ocean liner is not the Oasis of the Seas. It's not an ocean liner. What's your favorite ride at Disneyland or Disney World? My favorite ride at Disneyland is the Disneyland Railroad. My favorite ride at Disney World would have to be Kilimanjaro Safaris at Animal Kingdom. Oliver says, I don't think many history YouTubers are actually professional historians. There are a lot, yes, but many are also just history enthusiasts. Yeah, exactly. And it's just funny. It's like, that goes to show, like, you never really know what the future will bring. Like, I started my channel with no expectation that I was going to become a popular channel. I started it just for fun, you know, like I needed something to take my mind off of things. And so, so I created the Alex Historian channel, and it was just going to talk about Disney history, and it was never meant to be taken too seriously. I mean, granted, it gave factual information about the history of the park, but it was never meant to be like a serious channel. It was meant to be like cute, you know, like I'm Alex the Historian, like, you know, like I even, like, my logo has the hat because I became known for the hat. I became known for the hat because when I started doing Disney vlogs in 2017, I would go to the park and I get sunburned real easily. So I didn't want my face to be constantly sunburned. So I brought my hat with me, and I have this fedora that I love. I brought the hat, and after doing several vlogs, it became my signature look. People were like, "Oh, there's Alex. There's the hat. There he is." And so the hat became my signature. And it's funny because now I have no use for the hat. And when I wear the hat in some of my videos, I get people going, "You can't wear a hat indoors." I'm like, "Oh, Lord, it's part of my look. It's the character I play." And they're just like, "What?" So, yeah. TT says, "What do you think about Walt Disney?" Walt Disney was, pretty good guy. He was no saint, but he did do some really amazing things for people in his lifetime. He built some really amazing places, including Disneyland, and what he did for the World's Fair as well. And, he was a good family man. He loved his kids. He loved his wife. He treated them wonderfully, So, yeah, he was overall just a very normal, nice man, I guess, Cunard said, "Did all your claims against the Historian name come at the same time? If so, it was probably only one person made it look like more." No, it came every couple of months. So, and I still get it on occasion. I think the last time someone accused me of being a fraud was probably a little over a month ago. Yeah. So, some people just call me a liar. And they don't even call me a fraud. They go, "Oh, you're a liar." And I'm like, "Why am I a liar?" Because you're trying to make people think that you're what was the word that they used? An expert. They're trying to make people think you're an expert. I'm like, I never claimed to be an expert on anything. I was like, if anything, I claim to be an expert on Disneyland history, but I never claim to be an expert on ocean liners because I'm still new to it. And it's evidenced by my channel. I've only started making ocean liner content since 2021. So, some people, like I said, that's what makes me so scared to meet strangers now on my channel, because with the physical threats, the death threats, it's just like, oh my gosh. Wyatt says, "At this point, I would say honor and glory are historians. They can tell you where this board of wood belongs and where that rivet should be." I would agree. Whenever it comes to, like, Titanic stuff, I always refer to two channels. Well, they're the channels that I watch. But I refer to Titanic Honor and Glory for stuff like that. And, of course, Titanic University, but that's the same people. And Sam from Historic Travels. He knows a lot about the Titanic. And so those are the two people I always reference when I talk about Titanic stuff, because that's where I learn it all. I trust their research. I've seen how they research things, and I think it's a very tried and true method. So that's who the people I trust. So there's more channels out there that do very accurate research. It's just that I don't know them all. I don't have an obsession with Titanic the way a lot of people do. So I don't actually watch a lot of Titanic content. Just those two channels, really. Am I into planes? No, I'm not into planes. Favorite ride at Disneyland or Disney World? I already mentioned it. I already said it. Oliver says, "Did you hear the rumor that Walt Disney was a fascist sympathizer?" It's just a rumor. That particular rumor was created by a man named Art Babbitt, who once worked for Walt Disney. Art Babbitt created that rumor because he was very upset. You see, Art wanted to have a raise. Walt, being the business tycoon he was also stubborn, didn't want to give him a raise. So Art Babbitt, and along with a few other animators, created a group of people to go on strike. They went on strike against the Disney studios, asking for better pay. And again, Walt, being the business tycoon he was, and in line with other businesses at the time, did not give them a raise. He didn't want to. He didn't think that was the right thing to do. And with each day they were on strike, Walt got more and more angry because he felt like this was his family and they've all turned against him. He took it way too personally and he didn't give in to any of their demands. So they created a smear campaign against Walt Disney. And part of that smear campaign was people like Art Babbitt went out and told all these rumors about Walt Disney. And one of those rumors was that he was some kind of Nazi sympathizer, that he was fascist, that, all kinds of stuff. None of it was provable in any way. And so, a good number of the accusations against Walt came from that smear campaign because people were angry that they weren't being paid more money. And I think a lot of those people actually got fired. Back then, there wasn't a law about firing people who were on strike. Back then, if you were on strike, you could get fired. And so I think, in fact, one of the reasons why we have that law, especially in California, that you can't get fired for going on strike, is because of what happened when Walt Disney fired a bunch of people who stayed on strike for a very long time. So, did Walt mishandle the situation? Absolutely. Was he wrong for what he did? He was wrong for firing people for going on strike, yes. Was he wrong for not wanting to pay them more simply because they asked to be paid more? No, I don't think so. I've been a business owner. I felt that when people worked really hard, I would give them a raise. And I felt that for people who didn't work as hard, they shouldn't get that raise because they didn't work as hard. That's how I think of things. I might be wrong, but that was my training. That's what I knew. That's how I felt in my heart. So Walt felt like people should get a raise when they do better work. But these people wanted to unionize. They wanted to have a baseline pay for everybody. And that pay was going to be higher than the baseline pay that Disney already had. So it was a really complex situation. And even to this day, those rumors are still repeated as if it's true. But there's lots of evidence to the contrary, that Walt was not fascist. He was not a Nazi sympathizer. He was not anti-Semitic. In fact, one of the things, too, is he's received multiple awards from various Jewish temples and organizations. In fact, in 1955, he was labeled as Man of the Year by the Bri, I think I pronounced it right. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Bri Temple in Beverly Hills. A fascist sympathizer does not get labeled Man of the Year by the Jewish community. So, but yeah. A lot of people have wanted me to make a video that kind of talks a bit more about the context of all these accusations against Walt Disney. The thing is, Walt was no saint. He did do things that were wrong, but he didn't do them for the reasons that people think he did them for. And I think that is what makes all the difference. There's a difference between hating someone and then a difference between insulting them because you're too much of an idiot to realize that you're insulting them. So that's where Walt falls into place. Like a lot of people in his time, putting characters in his cartoons, such as the natives in Peter Pan, where they say, stereotypical things and act stereotypical ways and look stereotypical, it was not meant to be something like, haha, like, look at how idiotic the natives are. That wasn't what it was meant to be like. It was supposed to be just a funny jest, a play on the stereotype. Unfortunately, it doesn't translate well in modern days. Because obviously it is offensive. And Walt Disney, with many things, he grew with the age. As the civil rights movement progressed, as people learned more and more about what was appropriate, he learned it too. And his cartoons reflected that. Over the years, less and less of that offensive material was put in. I think the last thing when he died, he still had some offensive material against American natives. In fact, American natives didn't actually get most of the offensive stuff taken out of Hollywood in general until the 1990s. And even then, there's still some of it still around. I mean, look at that recent Disney movie with, what's his name? The Lone Ranger with Tonto and stuff like that. You know, like, that is a recent movie. So, technically some of that stuff never went away, but Walt was a person who learned his mistakes and changed the way he did things. I think that speaks a lot. So I don't know. I might make a video about that. Let's see. Swag says, are Queen Mary's current funnels original? No, they are replicas that were put on there after the ship was converted to a hotel. Let's see. Fun Edit says, what's your favorite ship model? I only have one ship model, and that's the Titanic, so I don't really have a favorite. I would love to have a model of the Queen Mary in the same scale as Titanic, but they don't have that. RMS Queen Elizabeth. Oh, I see, okay. Little Man says, does 3 funnels on the Queen Mary make it go faster than the funneled Queen Elizabeth? Well, it's important to say that, yes, the Queen Mary was faster than Queen Elizabeth, but the funnels have nothing to do with it. As I always say on this channel, the number of funnels on an ocean liner does not directly correlate to the speed of the ocean liner. So you can't say that because an ocean liner has more funnels, it goes faster. Nor can you say that it has less funnels, it goes faster. It just doesn't correlate. It just depends on how much needs to be exhausted out of the ship and where it needs to be exhausted. So, but it has no correlation whatsoever to the speed of a ship. Yeah, Derpy. Queen Mary was always faster than Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth was never capable of achieving the speeds that Queen Mary was. Should have called it. Yeah. Sherman. Yeah, I think I've seen that video too. Unfortunately, a lot of the information... the funny thing is that a lot of the stuff is taken out of context. And a lot of these places don't provide context. So that's the thing, is they go, look at this shocking image. And you go, that is shocking. That's horrible. And it is. It's shocking. It's horrible. But there's a reason why it's that way. It doesn't always point to hatred. And even if it does, there are certain things that explain why it's that way. So that's the problem, is that the context is missing out of it. You know, it's like when I tell people, you know, like, if you've ever walked into someone's conversation and you heard something that sounded funny and you're like, why would you, what is this conversation about? And they go, oh, we were talking about this. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense now. It's the same thing with Disney. If you were to just randomly walk into a room and you see an image of Donald Duck wearing a Nazi uniform, you're like, whoa, wait, what did Walt do? But then you watch the whole cartoon and you realize the whole cartoon was actually about how bad Nazis are. That Donald Duck was having a nightmare where he woke up and he was in the German army. He was a Nazi. He wore the symbol, and he realized that being a Nazi was this terrible thing. They lived in terrible conditions, and they were nasty, mean, disgusting, evil people. And then he wakes up and he thanks his lucky stars that he's not a German soldier, that he's not a Nazi. So the context means everything. It totally changes the message that gets sent out. And so the thing is when I was doing research on Walt Disney and people would say, oh, look at this offensive image, I'd go, okay, I'd watch the whole video. So some people, they only watch that segment and they walk away going, that's horrible, that's horrible. He's an evil person. I go and I watch the whole thing to get the context. And then I realize that there's a different meaning behind what is being shown. And so that makes all the difference. And so I noticed that the number one reason why there's so much evidence of Walt Disney's racism, fascism, all that kind of stuff, is because people are taking things that are out of context. There's a book that says that Ward Kimball said, oh, Walt hated women. That's why he always made them motherless or something like that. Made his princesses motherless or whatever. Or that's why they were always the villains in his movies. Ward Kimball was a joker. He always joked things. You really think that when he worked for Walt, that he would say anything negative about his employer? That he would say anything like that? No. He was joking. And Ward Kimball, he was known for making those kinds of jokes. Because obviously you have to take the context. The person who asked him the question, they said, so could you tell us more about why the princesses don't have mothers, why there's, and then Ward snarkily remarked, oh, because Walt hates women. Obviously, all his female characters are villains. That's not true. You watch the movies, and there's only a small percentage of the female characters that are villains. It's a joke. But people take that in text, and they go, look, Ward Kimball said it. The context means everything. So, yeah. Swag says, wait, Alex owning a business is at a coffee shop. Yes, it was a cafe. So we did serve coffee, but we also served food. I was the chef to that. So I went to culinary school and learned how to cook and stuff like that. And I helped my business partner open a business. He was the coffee guy. I was the baker and the cook. And we both owned it together. TT about Walt Disney's deep struggles and problems in his life. Maybe, we'll see. I have a video series already called Who Was Walt Disney? That kind of explains a little bit about it. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, it's a series. It's called Who Was Walt Disney? So that might help you a little bit. What is my favorite ship from White Star Line? Oceanic 2. Conrad said, Walt purposely had authentic Indian/Native Americans in Disneyland. That is true. That's another one of those things. People go, look at this footage. Walt had these, people dressed up as natives dancing around as some kind of hokey show for everybody to laugh at. And I'm like, no. If you research the Indian village, it was an authentic experience. Walt invited whole tribes of natives to come to Disneyland and teach the audience, who the park goers, teach them about their culture. It was not for entertainment, it was for education. And that was what was so cool about the Indian village, as it was called, was that you got to learn stuff. They taught you how they built, how their ancestors built their homes. The teepees, the mud huts, the various things. They taught them how they did that. They explained what the dances were about. So every time they did a dance, they would explain to the audience, this is what the dance is for. This is what the dancers are doing. This is how it interprets. It was very educational, and it was a wonderful thing. We should have more stuff like that. There's so much misinformation about American natives out there. And it would be cool to have something like that again, where we could see that and learn more about it and gain a better understanding. It's a beautiful culture. My dad's one of my dad's high school friends I grew up going and visiting her her native family. They are Navajo. They have such a beautiful culture, you know. So, yeah, you know, that's the thing is people, they look at those old images of the Indian village and they go, look how racist this is, and it's like, no, that's not what it was about. So it's just another one of those things. Orange Grove is here. Stereotypes still exist in Disney content. The controlling Asian mother and turning red is a perfect example. Interesting topic. Still an issue even to this day. You are totally right. You are totally right. You know, it's a situation that's still around. Someone told me the other day, they said that movies like Encanto also featured some of that insensitive idealism. It was like, oh, it's appropriating a culture for entertainment. You know, the thing is that when you think about it, Walt was not the only person in the world who did stuff like that. It doesn't make it okay. It does not make it okay. But he wasn't the only person in the world that did that. It was just, as they say, he was a product of his time. But he learned from his mistakes over time. Maybe not all of them, but he did. There is evidence that he learned about those things, and he was a better person, you know, towards the end of his life. So, History of Swag says, hey, Alex, what was Walt Disney's last movie he made? What was it called? Something Boys. Something like Fly Home Boys or something. I think that was the last movie he made. But the last movie he was involved in was the production of The Jungle Book. He never got to see it completed. It was completed after his death. But The Jungle Book was one of the last movies he was involved in. Granny Gaming says, is there any ship with more than 4 funnels? Yeah. Someone pointed it out to me. It was like the Great Eastern, wasn't it? The Great Eastern had like 5 funnels. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Great Eastern had like 5 funnels. But yeah, there were lots of them actually. Someone I've been in contact with, Maverick, he showed me on his channel is a Great Lakes steamship that had 5 funnels. So yeah, there were lots of ships with 5 funnels. Is it really been the... Oh, it has been 3 hours. I gotta end this live stream, you guys. Yes, Tyler, I did say I was gay. Does anyone actually take the infographic show seriously anymore? Good question. I'm just gonna skim through these to get through this. Hold on. Have I ever been outside the USA? No, I've never been outside the USA, but I am planning, and it would be the UK and Paris. That's my plan. So I want to take a transatlantic crossing aboard the Queen Mary 2 to the UK and to Paris to film stuff for this channel to bring you guys more history content. Let's see. Yes, I knew Disney was a frontline ambulance driver. Live stream. Does anyone read it? Hey, after the live stream, does anyone not get to read the chat? Swag says, hey, after the live stream, does anyone not get to read the chat? They do, but it doesn't show up to the next day. So after the live stream, you might notice that if you tune back in to rewatch it, the chat is not open. For some reason, it takes a whole day to process. So the next day, you'll see the chat there. Sometimes it just takes a couple hours, but most of the time it takes till the next day before you see people's comments in the chat. But it's still there. I make sure that it's on there, so that way people can read stuff. Linda says, hey, Alex, thanks for explaining about the Indian village. Even I didn't get to see that. It was before my time. Yeah, that would have been a cool place to be. If you want to learn about warships, you should check out the YouTube channel Dracenophile? I can't pronounce that. I'm not much into warships, really, but... Follow Me Boys. Orange Grove, thank you so much. Follow Me Boys. That was Walt Disney's last completed film. Yeah. Follow Me Boys. I was like, Fly Home Boys or something. I was like, Fly Home Boys. Like, what? That was what I said. Oh my gosh. Fun Edit says, Alex, what's your favorite ocean liner movie? Titanic. James Cameron's Titanic. Wyatt Horn says, Great Eastern was so bad. Yes, see you later, Linda. All right, folks, I'm going to end the live stream now. It has been 3 hours. This is a very long live stream. It's been 3 hours and 15 minutes. So anyway, folks, thank you all for watching. And I will see you all later this week. Bye-bye.